life block.
Then, bizarrely, a second female soldier goes missing.
Megan Tuma, she was supposed to go to work, and she didn't show up for work.
Are they just missing? Did they succumb to foul play? Like, you just don't know.
The mirror had a very large insignia drawn on it. That insignia was the zodiac sign.
While there's this massive search for Holly, these mysterious letters come in
From a person purporting to be reenacting the Zodiac murders.
This could be the same killer.
My name is Jesse James. For 17 years, we have lived with the pain of losing our daughter, Holly. It's something that cannot be explained in words. Recently, I decided to write to the person responsible for taking Holly from us. I'm not sure why, and I'm not sure what I'm reaching for, but it just feels like I need to express my thoughts. Many, many people loved Holly, and you took her from all of us. I still have episodes of grief that I'm unable to control. Why did he choose Holly? I've decided to reach out and try to discover that.
So right now, I'm on my way to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. It's one of the largest military bases in the world. Some say that this base right here is America's first line of defense. I'm investigating a mysterious disappearance of an Army nurse. Her name is Second Lieutenant Holly Lynn James. When Holly fails to show up for her shift at Womack Army Medical Center, it causes concern because it's something totally out of character for any soldier.
I was driving back to Fort Bragg from Iowa, and I received a text from a friend at work asking me when the last time I heard from Holly was. It was unusual. Holly was very dependable, and it's just, you know, being an Army officer, it was kind of unheard of to not show up for work.
Her co-workers went to her apartment, and when they got there, they found that she wasn't there, and it had been set on fire. So they called the police.
Pretty much as soon as Holly went missing, I heard about it. Our homicide team heard about it. It was very concerning. She had just sort of disappeared into thin air.
This is the face of the missing Fort Bragg soldier. Has not been seen since Wednesday.
Holly was driven by ambition, an unshakable work ethic, and felt a powerful call to serve her country.
A lot of us are military in our family, and she wanted to go out and do something great.
Holly's younger brother, Bo, a Marine himself, says that Holly had found her calling. As a nurse, were you pretty proud of her?
Absolutely, yeah. They're absolutely lifesavers.
She wanted to go to Iraq. I said, why would you want to go to Iraq, to the war zone? And she said, Dad, I just think I can help soldiers if I'm out there as a first responder in a war zone. I can do more good and help more soldiers.
Although Holly never served in combat and was ultimately stationed in the U.S., she was going places, and by age 23 had become a second lieutenant in the United States Army.
Even though I was a sergeant major, she was technically a higher rank than me starting out, you know, and I was pretty proud of that. They assigned her to the mother-baby ward at Womack. She just always wanted to be in the thick of things.
She was a floor nurse. She loved helping people all the time, and she really loved children.
Actually, at the time, Holly was raising a couple of children on her own, born from a relationship with her ex-boyfriend from her hometown of Dubuque, Iowa. Then in 2007, she met this 22-year-old Marine, Corporal John 𝐷𝐻𝐻, a combat engineer who was stationed along with her brother Bo at Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune. Colonel Kirk Cordova was John 𝐷𝐻𝐻's commanding officer.
He's a non-commissioned officer working towards being a sergeant and probably one of the best ranks in the Marine Corps. So he was very proficient, I can tell you that.
We deployed together. A lot of times we were looking for explosives or blowing things up. He was very good at our robots that we used for looking for explosives or setting them.
I was embedded in the war zone with the Marines in the invasion of Iraq in 2003. The level of danger was similar to what they experienced.
Marines continue to bring their heavy armor north.
And you realize just how intense their jobs really are. Why did you decide you wanted to introduce him to your sister, Holly?
Everything he said just seemed so funny. And I thought Holly deserved some humor in her life too.
She outranked him. She was an officer and he was an enlisted man, lower enlisted man.
The couple eventually married and shared an apartment together in Fayetteville, just outside the gates of Fort Bragg. 𝐷𝐻𝐻 lived 2 hours away at Camp Lejeune, but would visit on weekends.
Holly and John seemed happy, seemed like a good match. Being a dual military couple, it's just that extra layer of complication. You're just apart quite a bit.
During 𝐷𝐻𝐻's deployment, Holly bridged the distance with heartfelt video messages.
I bought this camcorder just so I could talk to you. So I just wanted to tell you hi, and I love you, and I miss you. I'm very proud of you.
There was a number of videos that she had made for him, you know, and they were sweet.
I'm pretty excited. You'll be here in 2 months.
She would talk about, you know, how much she loved him, how much she was looking forward to him coming back.
I didn't talk to you, so I just wanted to send you a quick hi and let you know that everything's okay.
Just being a sweet gal.
Together, they were rising in the military ranks, newly married, full of hope, but everything would change on that terrible night Holly went missing.
There is still no official word on the whereabouts and the fate of Army Lieutenant Holly 𝐷𝐻𝐻.
Investigators speak with 𝐷𝐻𝐻, who says that he was hours away at Camp Lejeune and knew nothing about Holly's whereabouts.
My wife got the call at home, and they said Holly was missing.
Police and federal investigators are on the case. Crime scene tape surrounds the apartment complex.
I began to see reports on the internet. The first report I saw was the police there, the military there, and they were towing her car away from the apartment complex.
There was a lot of interest locally and nationally about what had happened to Holly.
I had reporters on my doorstep, and they were asking if I knew anything about Holly, what could I tell them? I think that's when I realized it was bigger than what I was imagining.
At this point, we didn't know if this was a random act of violence that occurred, or if this is someone that had kidnapped Holly or killed Holly.
It's currently under investigation, and we're working with Fort Bragg trying to locate this person.
People are scared, people are worried, and they've got to go fast to try to find her.
It was all happening so rapidly, so quick.
You decided to fly out to see exactly what's happening.
I did.
But your main job was really to find her.
I came here on a mission. I was scared to death because I was afraid of what I was going to find.
And when investigators are given the all clear to enter Holly's apartment,
there was a note that had survived the fire.
This letter. What or who will they uncover? Oh, look at her cheeks there.
I know, huge cheeks, you know.
She's adorable.
Really very cute, huh? She was a little daddy's girl. She loved working at that hospital. I had no doubt she was going to stay in the Army because she loved it that much.
She found the job she loves.
Yep, she did.
She was up for the challenge. And from what I know, I think she did great.
She worked really hard so she'd be able to get a good life and a good job to be able to raise us better.
At the time of Holly's disappearance in July of 2008, her children, Harper, just 7, and 3-year-old Kendall, were far from the chaos, visiting their father back in Iowa.
We were not there when our mom went missing.
Authorities finally released the name and picture of 2nd Lieutenant Holly 𝐄𝐈𝐃𝐄, a nurse at Womack Army Medical Center.
You decided to fly out to see exactly what's happening.
I did. You know, my first thought was go to the media like I've seen other families do. Ask Holly to surface, or if somebody's got Holly, ask them to bring her back, you know. And then I thought I should do that from Fayetteville. I should do that from Fort Bragg. Because if she is around there, you know, I can say, here I am, right here, and you can come to see me.
We're in constant contact with the family.
What exactly did the investigators tell you?
Well, that evening when I got here and I met with the chief of detectives, one of the first questions I said is my daughter dead? And he said, we can't say that. He said, because that hasn't been proven. But he said, I can tell you we have grave, grave concern.
Once the flames were out, investigators combed through the charred remains of Holly's apartment, searching for anything the fire had not destroyed.
For the second day in a row, state and federal agents scoured the young woman's burned apartment.
The case would soon fall to Detective Jeff Locklear of the Fayetteville Police Department, the man tasked with uncovering what happened to Holly. What was your reaction when you learned that the woman that's missing was a soldier?
My partner and I, we were surprised. At that time, you know, the whole city was kind of on edge.
How far are we from her apartment?
So as the crow flies, maybe a mile, not very far at all. All of that stuff was pretty centralized around the mall area of Fayetteville.
Holly's apartment sits along this busy stretch of road just 5 miles outside the gates of Fort Bragg, where she worked as an Army nurse.
And her apartment building was actually the first building that you come to on the right.
Down here, 146.
Yep, 146. Well, as soon as we got here, we could tell, you know, looking through the back window, that place had been burned. She, of course, was not in there.
What's the first thing you saw when you walked in?
Well, I think a better question would be what was the first thing that I smelled, and that was gasoline. And there was so much gasoline in the apartment poured on the floor and on the carpet that as my partner and I would walk, it would kind of gush up next to our shoe. The fire department was really concerned about it. They said a spark could light this whole place up.
Why was it the building was not completely burnt to the ground?
Anybody can strike a match, but you got to know, you got to have enough air. With this amount of gasoline that was poured in the apartment, they didn't have enough air. They should have left the door open to have vented it more, and we would have had a more complete fire.
So this was an arson, but not a very talented arson.
Exactly.
So in 2008, I was a forensic technician dispatched via radio to respond out to an apartment fire at that time. I initially just started taking photographs around. There's a certain level of emotion that teeters on excitement and anxiousness because you're kind of afraid of what you might find.
By the front door, investigators discovered Holly's purse, still holding her ID, credit cards, her keys, and phone. For the detectives, the abandoned belongings are a red flag.
Typically, being a woman myself, if I were to go off somewhere, my purse and at least my personal belongings, credit cards, things of that nature would have come with me.
As investigators push deeper into the apartment, the kitchen reveals its own disturbing clue.
I noticed that there was a knife block sitting over on the counter, and several knives were missing from the knife block.
We couldn't find any of those knives like in a drawer or maybe dirty in the sink. They were missing from that house altogether.
We knew that could have been used as some sort of a weapon, so we certainly took note of that as well.
The missing knives raised the grim possibility that Holly was stabbed. There were also signs of blood spatter in her bedroom, along with another disturbing piece of evidence.
Probably one of the most alarming things about the master bedroom is, one, the carpet, the large amount of carpet that had been cut from around the door frame. It was almost, carved precisely to cut out a specific shape. So all of the bedding had been removed to include the pillowcases. So that was a little out of the norm as well of a home that had been lived in where there was absolutely no bed linen on it at all.
Then eagle-eyed detectives spot something easy to miss, a single bullet hole in the closet door.
Something potentially could have occurred right in front of the closet.
Amid the devastation, one piece of evidence survived, and it would become the investigation's biggest clue.
I just happened to notice an odd scrap of paper in the middle of the hallway. Then once I uncrumpled the ball of paper, I notified Detective Locklear that there was a message on it.
A note survived the fire.
This letter.
We just thought it might have just been some trash, some refuse, whatever, until we unraveled it.
Can you read that?
It says something to the effect of, she shot herself, and I tried to make it look like an accident.
The note, scrawled in jagged handwriting and unsigned, hinted at Holly's fate, but raised more questions than answers.
It wasn't consistent with what we were seeing, but obviously it was an important piece of evidence that we took note of.
Was the note a confession or a calculated attempt to throw investigators off the trail?
Even the smallest details are something that it may be insignificant now, but down the line it might be one of the most critical pieces of evidence that you have.
When Holly's father arrives at the scene, the evidence looks grim, and yet he holds out hope.
I believed Holly was alive. I said, I'm going to work to try to get her back here. And I'm going to do everything that I can do to try to get her back.
The thought was that she still could be alive and that we could find her, but we knew this also could end very tragically.
And with an active duty soldier missing, the U.S. Army search and rescue mission kicks into high gear.
I mean, the Army's got a missing soldier, and that's a big deal.
We'll dedicate as many people as we have because this is one of our own. That's a sister. This young mother, this soldier is missing. The clock was ticking.
But where was Holly? And is there a hidden secret in this last photo taken of her before she vanished?
We're now inside Fort Bragg, North Carolina, about 250 square miles, about 50,000 active duty soldiers.
Fort Bragg is a city unto itself, sprawling, relentless, and brimming with power. Soldiers here often call it the center of the military universe. And when 2nd Lieutenant Holly James goes missing, the U.S. Army mobilizes fast, launching an all-out search, working around the clock to find answers.
Good to see you.
Special Agent Al Diaz is the man in charge of the Army's Criminal Investigation Division at Fort Bragg.
What do you remember when the news came out that Holly was missing?
Just like any time a service member shows up missing, there's just that natural sense of concern. And then what we can do to help local law enforcement find her.
Does it become 24 hours a day?
Absolutely. I mean, you want to put as much effort and resources to it until you find the individual. Are they just missing? Did they succumb to foul play? Like, you just don't know.
Fort Bragg sits like a fortress. At its heart is Womack Medical Center, where Holly worked as an Army nurse. With 13 access points in and out, CID's task was clear: reconstruct Holly's every step in the days before she vanished. Adam Armstrong is a special agent with CID.
All right, so you get the call from the police about what was happening that afternoon.
So when we get that, we'll immediately get a picture of her out so we can start working on the reward posters and all that. And then we start figuring out, okay, how can we start putting together elements to go out and start searching?
Tell us where we're going.
Right now, we're just heading back to the one side of base where Holly was last seen.
Investigators learned that just 2 nights before she was reported missing, Holly had been seen at a late-night softball game on base.
So this is the last place that she was
right here on the right-hand side.
So this was the 8th, 2 days before they discovered that she was missing. This is where she was.
And so a sergeant first class had invited her out to come watch. And then after the game, she actually approached him. He actually helped out a lot. played a big role in understanding the last time that she was seen.
This is the last photo of Holly taken just before she disappeared.
He says she was happy that night, bubbly, and just seemed to be in good spirits. With the cell phone analysis, and they were able to identify that she did leave the base and she did make it home.
Something had happened to Holly. You just felt like you had to get here?
Had to come.
While Army investigators combed the base, Holly's father, Jesse James, launches his own search for answers.
I had to get to Fort Bragg, so I had to think about how I was going to get sort of control of the situation.
Your father was on a mission to try to figure out what happened to his daughter, to your sister.
Absolutely. He was on a mission, and 10 seconds of hearing that his daughter was missing, he wasn't going to let it go, nor should he.
Thinking about my grandfather dropping everything to fly to Fayetteville and find her, that's a man who loves his daughter.
And it shows how loving and caring he is and how deeply he loves his family.
The thought occurred to me that I'm going to go to the bank and see if she had any charges on her checking account or credit card since she disappeared. And I got up and drove over to the bank. I said, are there any recent charges in the past day to her credit card or her checking account?
A bank attorney confirms that there had been activity on Holly's account, charges dated the very day she vanished. So there was hope.
Oh, let's see. I walked away stepping lightly, as quickly as I could, called Detective Locklear, and he almost hung up on me. He wanted to call that bank to get a warrant to get the checking account information.
But to Jesse's disappointment, what seems like a promising lead goes nowhere. It turns out those transactions were older ones, charges that had only just been cleared.
Took all the wind out of me and was right back where we started.
Desperate for answers, Jesse comes here to Holly's workplace at Womack Medical Center to try to retrace his daughter's footsteps. Yeah, so this is where she was, huh?
It is where she was. The morning after I got here, I just walked in and introduced myself, and I could just feel a shockwave go through the unit, you know, because they were experiencing it just like we were. She loved these people, and she loved the people she worked with. I could sense a presence here of Holly. I could see her just running the hall. She never walked slow. I could see her just rushing through these hallways, and I could feel that. And I thought, I just might be putting my feet where her feet were. And that affected me.
Days into the investigation, there is still no sign of Holly. But then an unexpected twist, a possible link to another female soldier who had also gone missing from Fort Bragg.
These mysterious letters come into the Fayetteville Observer as well as the Fayetteville Police Department.
CID said, look, we got a second female soldier that's missing and has possibly been harmed.
We wondered, could this be connected to Holly's case?
Are we dealing with a copycat here?
A disturbing letter, marked with a chilling symbol.
And there it is on that mirror in the lipstick.
And could there be a connection to Holly?
I'm like, I don't know, this has never happened. It's like something you see in a movie. When I left the crime scene, I didn't think that we would find her alive.
Summer 2008, Holly Lynn James has vanished. Teams of investigators search for clues in a burned-out apartment near Fort Bragg Army Base. But it turns out Holly's not the only female soldier in the area to go missing that June.
And right at the same time, there's 2 different investigations, also with soldiers, also females.
It's 2 females now. Both are in the military, and both of the situations are nothing about them is normal. It was getting interesting here at the Fayetteville Police Department.
About a month before Holly disappeared, another female soldier from Fort Bragg went missing. The police got a call saying that there was a strange odor coming out of this hotel, and that took a chilling turn.
A deceased person was located inside room 143. She was dressed in a bathing suit, almost as like she had just left the pool. And then when the maintenance guy found her, the water was still running in the bathtub.
She was submerged in the bathtub, and so there was water everywhere. There was actually a towel along the bottom edge of the door, so whoever had done it was thinking ahead. And so that way the water couldn't get out to alert anybody.
This room had been rented to a Megan Tuma. Megan was a soldier, an active duty soldier.
23-year-old Megan Tuma was a dental specialist who had been with the Army for 5 years. Her body was found in a hotel room June 21st. She was 7 months pregnant and may have been dead for days.
Megan Tuma had newly transferred to Fort Bragg from a military base in Germany. She was supposed to go to work, and she didn't show up for work. They did not notice that she was missing.
She's found on the 21st of June. The last time she was seen, I believe, was 15 June. And so there's about a 6-day gap. And then the hotel that she was staying in off post, she had one of those do not disturbs on. And so that's why she was in there for a lengthy time without anybody coming in.
So she was in an advanced state of decomposition. Some evidence of a struggle, some of what we believe to be blood, light blood transfer on the wall.
So she was murdered in that hotel.
The autopsy revealed she had been strangled. We flipped the switch then and it went to a homicide investigation. There was something else in the room, though, that made us really suspicious. The mirror outside the bathroom had a very large insignia drawn on it in lipstick. That insignia that was drawn there was the zodiac sign. A couple of days later, we get a letter through the mail from a person purporting to be somebody who is reenacting the Zodiac murders from the West Coast.
From 1968 to 1974, several newspapers in the San Francisco area received a series of anonymous letters from the self-proclaimed Zodiac killer who claimed credit for up to 37 murders. The 2007 movie Zodiac put one of America's biggest unsolved murder cases on the big screen.
It's unsigned except for a symbol. Is it me? Or does that look like a gun sign?
A letter has surfaced claiming the murder is a work of a serial killer.
Good morning, Robin. That letter certainly has gotten everyone's attention. In a twisted case with very few leads, police have been forced to pay particular attention to this letter sent to a local newspaper. The writer signed the letter with a symbol made famous by the infamous Zodiac killer of the 1960s.
The Fayetteville Observer received a letter, and this is what the letter said. I am responsible for the dead body that was found on Saturday, June 21st at 11:30 in room 143. I confess that I have killed many times before in several states, but now I will start using my role model's signature.
We were sitting down in a meeting with CID about this exact letter when we got the call to go out to Holly's apartment. We were like, what is going on here? It's like something you see in a movie. The guy's trying to communicate with the police by way of mail.
And you're looking at the possibility this could be the same killer.
Of course, the same symbol is on the bottom of this letter that was written on the mirror in the hotel room in the lipstick. So are we dealing with a copycat here?
We very much thought that it was a possibility these were connected. Was Holly this killer's next victim, which would have been just a couple of weeks after Megan Tuma's murder. So it was certainly of interest and of concern in the disappearance of Holly.
The public is demanding answers. Now people are making phone calls, they're calling the chief, the city council. Hey, is there a serial killer in Fayetteville?
But as investigators dig deeper into the Megan Tuma case, they begin to question that serial killer theory. Detectives are able to uncover evidence that her murder might have been a highly personal one. And the trail leads to someone very close to her.
She had began a relationship with an individual and she had become pregnant as a result of that relationship. Well, it turns out he was married. He was in the military in the same base in Germany that Megan was assigned to. And we did a search warrant on his house, and you wouldn't believe it, he was actually actively taking the crime scene class at a local college here in Fayetteville.
Authorities began to close in on the man that they think might be responsible for Megan's murder. And in that parallel investigation, detectives also uncover evidence that Holly's disappearance also might not have been random, that it too could have been a highly personal crime.
It was obvious that something terrible had happened to Holly, and we were fairly certain that it was someone close to her that had done it.
Could a woman connected to John Weimunk with a possible grudge against Holly be responsible for her disappearance?
She was a threat?
She was a threat.
Two women stationed at Fort Bragg have met with tragedy. Fayetteville, North Carolina is a town on edge.
I think it's horrible what happened.
Stop you in your tracks.
The community was scared. It sort of put a lot of pressure on us as well. The public is wanting to know, what are we doing about it?
But then a huge development in the Megan Tuma case as Fayetteville police close in on the person they suspect is responsible for her murder.
Police in North Carolina are expected to offer details today about the death of a pregnant Fort Bragg soldier.
Who was it that was ultimately found to be the murderer in this case?
The person that was responsible for taking Megan Tuma's life was Edgar Patino. He was the father of her child that she was carrying.
And then the person claiming to have killed her had sent letters to the newspaper and to the police, claiming to be like the Zodiac killer.
We were able to prove that the letters that were sent were typed at our suspect's house by a typewriter in our suspect's room.
Edgar was also married at the time, and he had killed Megan Tuma because she was pregnant with a child, and yet he was still married and he wanted to remain with his wife.
And he's the one that set that crime scene up. He's the one that drew that Zodiac sign on the mirror.
Patino was playing games with the cops, trying to be too clever for his own good and lead them astray, and I don't think they ever really bought it.
So at that point, we had ruled out that the killer of Megan Tuma was also the killer or person responsible for the disappearance of Holly.
So now the race is on to find the culprit behind Holly's disappearance. A review of the evidence at the crime scene has investigators convinced that Holly knew her assailant.
There was no evidence that there was an intruder who had forced their way into the home through the door, through a window, or something like that.
We never thought that some stranger walking down Morganton Road just decided to peep through this girl's window and do all of this. We were fairly certain that the person that had done all these things knew her and that she knew that person.
Did it seem to indicate that this may have been done by somebody who knew the details of that apartment?
Holly either let that person in or that person made his way into the apartment by some other means, possibly by a key.
Detectives believe that whoever was in Holly's apartment also tried to cover up evidence of what happened there.
We found actually a carpet cleaner, and we tested that carpet cleaner, and it tested positive for blood on a preliminary test. Just from what I'd seen, the reaction we got from the luminol, the amount of carpet that was cut from the floor in the bedroom, the bed sheets and clothing and stuff had been taken off the bed. All those were indicators for me that there had been at least some measure of crime scene cleanup that had tried to, to take place.
Whoever did this might have tried to cover their tracks, but that crumpled letter was left behind.
It appeared that whoever wrote that note was inside the apartment when this terrible thing happened to Holly, but it does not identify who they were or what their relationship to Holly was.
The person that wrote this letter is the person that tried to burn that apartment, which is the person that knows where Holly's at. That's the way I was looking at it.
At the time of Holly's disappearance, we knew she was going through a tumultuous time in her life.
As investigators look into Holly's personal life for clues, they learn that about 8 months before she went missing, Holly had filed a request for a temporary restraining order against an ex-girlfriend of her husband named Lindsay. In the filing, Holly alleges that for 18 months, the defendant has continuously posted pictures of herself and my spouse on the internet with comments directed at me and claims I have changed my phone number 6 times.
Holly would always call Lindsay John's little girlfriend. I think there was a lot of yelling, a lot of swearing. Holly was getting exhausted because of the bombardment. I think she was just at the end of her rope.
Lindsay denied harassing Holly. In fact, she tells investigators Holly was the one harassing her, and she was never served with Holly's request for a restraining order.
She was considered a threat. That's why we wanted to look at her, because we had to consider her.
But when investigators talk to her, she denies having anything to do with Holly's disappearance. They also discover she had an alibi on the date Holly disappeared.
What did she say?
She provided a full breakdown of her timeline leading up to the disappearance of Holly.
She was not in Fayetteville the night Holly went missing.
So there was no evidence whatsoever to charge her for what happened to Holly?
She had no criminal culpability in this at all.
While Lindsay is fully cleared, investigators say she provides them with some revealing information about John Wymonk's activities the night of Holly's disappearance.
She actually told us about a phone call that she had with John, and John said that he was actually on his way to Fayetteville. So that was a key piece of evidence for us.
When she called him, he was like, I'm on my way, I can't do this anymore.
Why would he reveal this to her?
That's what we had to look at.
As investigators learn more about John Wymonk, they decide to bring him in again to answer questions about his wife's disappearance.
I'm at the point where I have no idea what's going on, okay? This is my wife. What the what's wrong with my wife? That's what we're all trying to find out.
And a shocking discovery in the middle of nowhere will bring yet another Marine into the frame.
Guess where I just come from? There's soot and dirt on my shoe. Why do you think there's soot and dirt on my shoe? How am I supposed to believe anything that you say? For God's sake, son, I need to find this woman. I got to do something for these kids.
You know that everything's okay.
I'll talk to you later, baby.
Tell him it's a Chevy.
It's a Chevy.
This young mother, this soldier is missing. The clock was ticking.
What's going on with my wife? You know what I mean? That's what we're all trying to find out.
Here was a mysterious person running through the parking lot and getting into a black pickup truck.
Today is the day of salvation. You better get on board right now.
What he specifically said is, are y'all looking for a blonde girl?
If you somehow committed a perfect murder and left no evidence, you could get away with it.
He's like, what's the worst you've ever done? He said the worst thing I've ever done is kill somebody.
He carved her name into a bullet and told her, this one's for you.
It's come to Jesus time. Now you tell me the rest of it. Tell me the rest of it.
For many years, I woke up at 4 a.m., went to the basement so I could cry, and called out for my daughter. When I had contacted you, I had no idea it would be so complicated. You stole my daughter from me.
Holly was a second lieutenant nurse corps officer. She was assigned to Womack Army Medical Center at Fort Bragg. All of her patients loved her. Her coworkers loved her.
That morning of the 10th of July, that was the first indication that something strange had happened.
She didn't show up for work, and she wouldn't answer any of the calls from her friends. And for them, that was a big deal.
Her co-workers there became concerned, so they went to her apartment and found that it had been set on fire.
What the scene did tell us was that something horrible had happened inside that apartment.
You just don't know the full extent of what has occurred, but you're also kind of afraid of what you might find.
Your father was on a mission to try to figure out what happened to his daughter.
He was on a mission and he wasn't going to let it go.
I was living like in two different worlds, I think. One believing that she's alive, another that she's dead.
So this young mother, this soldier is missing. The clock was ticking.
There's a lot of pressure on us.
It had been 3 days since Holly James had disappeared. Police had taken a close look at John 𝐄𝐄 former girlfriend, but investigators discovered that she had an alibi for the night Holly went missing and was nowhere near Fayetteville.
What was her demeanor when you were talking to her, investigating?
She was scared that she had been drawn into this mess.
She was ruled out as a suspect in the investigation, but she had provided information that was helpful.
Investigators say the former girlfriend is able to provide them with an inside look at the relationship between John and Holly.
They had been married for approximately a year, but towards the end of this 1 year marriage, it had become rather complicated between them.
Holly's brother, Bo, says the phone calls between John and Holly were becoming increasingly volatile.
He would be on the phone and then he would be just screaming at her.
You're watching him scream and you could hear your sister Holly reacting to that. What was she doing?
Crying, telling him to stop. And I felt like, well, I need to say something, but at the same time I thought, well, this is a married couple. I thought about if somebody tried doing that to me, it might upset me.
As investigators looked deeper into their relationship, they learned from friends close to Holly that John seemed insecure that he held a lower rank than his wife.
I think it was something of a resentment that she was a woman and she outranked him.
John 𝐄𝐄 was a corporal?
Yes.
So his level of skills was pretty high end?
I would say it was good. He's still honing his skills and still learning.
Her being an officer, she outranked him, and he would always tell her, "You're not a real officer," things like that, just putting her down.
We had a non-commissioned officer married to an Army second lieutenant. That just doesn't happen. That's the first time in my whole career that I had seen something like that.
According to Holly's friends, it was clear that John's attitude and frequent yelling directed towards his wife and distance between their bases was putting a strain on the relationship.
I didn't talk to you, so I just wanted to send you a quick hi and let you know that everything's okay.
They lived 2.5 hours apart. Eventually their marriage became estranged.
She had put up with the emotional abuse, and I think she finally realized that it wasn't going to get any better.
And as investigators continued to dig, they begin to realize that the alleged abuse may have been more than emotional.
We had done a number of interviews with her friends, some of the ladies that worked with her at WOMAC. First thing they told us was how violent John had been in the past.
Armed with these insights into Holly and John's marriage, investigators head to Camp Lejeune to talk with him.
This is where the Marines are. They have a lot of questions for Holly's husband, John 𝐄𝐄, about where he was and what he did that night.
NCIS agent brought him in from the command, interviewed him just to try and figure out what was going on and what he knew about Holly's whereabouts.
Hey, John, here's my guidebook. Hey, John. How you doing, sir? You sit this hot coffee down, buddy. How you doing? John, Jeff Locklear from Fayetteville.
He expressed that there were concerns for his wife, that he did not know where she was.
I'm at the point where I have no idea what's going on, okay? This is my wife. Right, everybody knows that. That is my apartment. What the f is going on with my wife? You know what I mean? That's what we're all trying to find out, man.
After a brief conversation, the agent conducting the interview noticed a smell of alcohol, and that Corporal 𝐄𝐄 was likely intoxicated or under the influence of alcohol.
I have been drinking. Okay. And I don't want the the things that I say to be turned around.
I don't want to talk with you now that, you know, I can smell the odor of alcohol. I don't want to talk to you about legal stuff while that's even a question in my mind. Let's handle all that tomorrow.
So he's free to go. He's not in custody or whatever.
So what did you learn in this investigation here?
It gives me a chance to look him in his eye. It gives me a chance to smell him. There's a difference between regular sweating and stress sweat. You can smell that guy.
Really? So you knew at that point?
Yeah, he ain't telling me everything, right?
In any type of case where we have a missing person, we have suspicious circumstances, I mean, the spouse is obviously a person of interest. NCIS will immediately look at them and trying to establish, are they related or are they unrelated? Either way.
We continue to gather evidence, to interview people, really focus in on John's movements and whereabouts around July 9th.
But as investigators focus their attention on John 𝐼𝐃, they are also conducting a canvass of Holly's apartment complex and get a tip that is about to pay off in a big way.
Here was a mysterious person running through the parking lot and getting into a black pickup truck. It gave us something to go on. It was a turning point in the investigation.
As investigators continue their urgent search for any leads linked to Holly's disappearance, they get their first big break in the case at her apartment complex.
We began interviewing neighbors. Did anybody see anything? Did anybody hear anything?
We interviewed one young lady, and she said that the night that apartment was burned, she was outside walking her dog. And she said that she saw a guy running through the shadows. She said he was purposely trying to stay in the shadows, and that he had dark clothing on, and that he was a white male. She did distinctly remember him running out to a truck.
It gave us something to go on.
Investigators talked to anyone involved in Holly's life to find out more details about that truck and who it may have belonged to, including at Camp Lejeune, where she often spent time with her husband.
As the police canvassed and interviewed people at Camp Lejeune, they found out that a young Marine named Kyle had been asking around about borrowing a pickup truck to help a friend move some things, and that was in the time period that Holly had disappeared.
Kyle is in fact Lance Corporal Kyle Alden, and investigators discover the identity of the man who he said he was helping to move. It was none other than Holly's husband, John 𝐼𝐃.
This became a very important piece of information, so we wanted to talk to Kyle and see if we could connect the dots.
Hey, buddy.
Hello, sir.
Hey, I'm Locklear.
Alden is brought in for an interview at Camp Lejeune with Detective Jeff Locklear.
This apartment, we got a fire at an apartment.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you know who owns that apartment? Without me even getting into specifics, go ahead and tell me who owns the apartment in Fayetteville. Who used to live there?
John 𝐼𝐃.
John 𝐼𝐃. And you know John?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So you had all this evidence. You go to interview Alden, so you treat him like your buddy, to be somebody who you want to be nice to.
Never had to raise my voice to him. Weren't cussing and yelling at him. Weren't accusing him of anything. Just going through and stuff, and kind of set the stage for him to begin to let his guard down some.
And you guys get to Fayetteville, and you went and picked up the stuff.
We get to Fayetteville, walked to the back of the apartment building, grabbed the grill, left it over the railing, and put it in the truck.
So you guys didn't go inside his old apartment?
No, sir.
Kyle Alden tells Locklear that he and 𝐼𝐃 went to Holly's apartment but could not get inside. He then says that they left. He went back home to go sleep with his wife, but it turns out that Locklear had already spoken to Alden's wife.
She says, I don't know what the heck's going on, okay? But not only that, but he's telling me to cover him, okay?
He was lying about large elements of the story.
This is true.
At this point of the interview, Locklear decides to dramatically up the ante with Alden.
For God's sake, son, I need to find this woman. I got to do something for these kids. Help me. Help me. Help me. Help you. That life raft's out there. I need for you to grab it. And I need for you to hold on to it. If you don't get it right now, okay, tomorrow is going to be too late.
Yes, sir.
I'm telling you. For God's sake, son, tell me. Tell me. Tell me. Now's the time. Yesterday was history.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow's a mystery. Today is what we're dealing with. Today is the day of salvation. You better get on board right now.
Yes, sir.
He seems to be holding back. We think he knows more than he's telling us.
Did John hurt Holly?
I have no idea.
Do you think John hurt Holly?
Kinda, but I hope not.
I do too. I would love for Holly to call me right now. That ain't gonna happen.
But as Detective Locklear is turning the screws on Kyle Alden, the interview is suddenly interrupted.
And somebody came and knocked on the interview door.
Go outside and talk to the boss a minute.
If somebody's stopping the interview, the building better be on fire. But somebody did.
A 911 call has come in from a forestry service in nearby Onslow County.
Did what? Yes, you heard me right.
That could lead to happiness or heartache.
What he specifically said is, are y'all looking for a blonde girl?
It had been 4 days since Lieutenant Holly James had vanished, and at this point, John 𝐲 has emerged as the prime suspect in the disappearance of his wife, a fact not lost on his commanding officer, Colonel Kirk Cordova.
The prime suspect was a Marine, and it was one of my Marines.
And given the reputation that he had, did you think at that time that maybe he is somebody that could be guilty of this?
Yes, given his nature and the fact that he's somewhat of a hothead and wanted to be in control all the time. As soon as I heard 𝐲 was our prime suspect, I assigned somebody to him and make sure he didn't leave, didn't run, so we knew where he was at all times.
While investigators methodically build their case against 𝐲, Jesse James decides to take a more direct approach, confronting him in person. What did he say exactly to you?
And I drove out to Camp Lejeune, and he was with like 3 friends. I saw some arrogance, saw that he was drinking. I just leaned into him very, very close. And I said, John, if you somehow committed a perfect murder and left no evidence behind and no one but you knows it, there's a sliver of chance that you could get away with it. But I said, if one person knows, you're gonna die for the crime.
What'd you read in his face?
Fear. Fear that all the arrogance was gone. If I'd have had a gun that day, I would have killed him.
I want you to tell me what happened. I gotta find Holly. For God's sakes, where's Holly at?
I do not know.
Okay.
Police continue to try and chip away at 𝐲's fellow Marine, Kyle Alden, but if he knows anything about Holly's disappearance, he's not giving up the goods.
Investigators knew he wasn't telling the truth and that he was hiding something.
He was stonewalling the investigation.
Oh yeah. I was surprised that he could hold out as long as he held out.
So he was in the middle of an interview, and suddenly some information came in that something was found at this field about 15 miles away from Camp Lejeune.
NCIS received a phone call. What we discovered was that the North Carolina Forestry Service had responded to a fire in a wooded area in Sneads Ferry, North Carolina.
So when those guys got to the scene and they go over there, it was pretty clear that there's a body in a shallow grave that looks like someone has tried to burn. They put the call in to the sheriff's office.
We're down here on this fire. We need Sheriff's Department down here for possible burned up body. Did what? Yes, you heard me right.
When they called you, they knew it was a body.
They said, we believe we found a burial site, and this might be the missing female from Fayetteville.
What he specifically said is, are y'all looking for a blonde girl? And obviously that hit really close to home. It was a sad day in that we knew what had ultimately happened to Holly.
The authorities shifted their focus here to Sneeze Ferry, North Carolina. This is about 130 miles away where Holly was living in her apartment, only about 15 miles away from Camp Lejeune.
If you were looking to hide a body, it would be a good place to do it. It's a very remote spot.
We drove out there to the crime scene, to the burial site.
You saw a body there, a burnt body.
I saw human remains rolled up in what appeared to be an air mattress. There was a hatchet in the burn pit with the remains. I saw a number of knives that looked like they came out of a butcher block.
Were those the ones that were also identified that we saw in the pictures inside her apartment that day when it was found out that she was missing?
Right, so those knives that were found with the body matched the style, make, and type that were missing from Holly's apartment.
The best way I could explain it to you is it was an oval-shaped 6-inch hole in the ground, long enough, to place her body.
So she was not buried, she was just laid there for the fire. And then how did they ignite it?
Gasoline.
Just poured it all around the area. Jesse James is at his son's house at Camp Lejeune when a detective from Fayetteville Police calls him with the news.
And of course I said, let's go. I'm going out there, to see the remains. And he said, I don't think you should do that. I don't think you should come out there with us. And I said, well, I don't care really what you think at this point. I'm going out where my child's remains were found. And he says, well, let me just try to make it a little clearer. There isn't much to see. He said the body had been burning for days.
I know that when it came to finding her, there was a lot of love poured into it, and that is something that I really appreciate, that people who didn't necessarily know her still felt the need to find her and loved her as deeply as they did.
An autopsy would confirm that the dismembered remains found in the pit were Holly's. The cause of death was a single gunshot wound to the head.
During the initial crime scene process, one of the things that kind of stood out to me was a small hole in the closet door of the master bedroom. I didn't know why, I couldn't explain it. Sure enough, as soon as we cut that door into, a piece of bullet fragment fell out. So my suspicions initially were correct, that it looks like she was laying down on the floor in the bedroom. The round was fired into her head, it exited her head, it hit the concrete floor, ricocheted up, and rested in the closet door.
One of the critical pieces that you need is the physical body of the person that was killed, and we had that now. And so the first thing we wanted to do is go talk to Kyle Alden again and ask him what really happened that day.
But would this tough Marine finally crack?
It's come to Jesus time, all right? But you can't get forgiveness unless you ask for forgiveness. You better get it out right now.
Investigators have finally discovered the remains of Holly Lynn James at a site deep in a pine forest. But Kyle Alden denies knowing anything about what became of her.
Have you guys found her body yet?
I'm gonna be honest with you, we will find her, all right? I promise you that.
As the questioning continues, Detective Locklear decides to see if some psychological persuasion can get Alden to open up.
And then I guess that's the whole crew.
Photos tend to help get people in their feelings, and that's the reason I introduced some photos in the interview.
So now you're showing him the pictures of these two adorable kids.
Mm-hmm. He tried to not look at the photos. Every time I would catch him kind of leading off, not looking at the photos, I said, no, look at her and her kids. And that pressure really worked with him.
Finally, Alden starts revealing details about the day of Holly's disappearance. He tells detectives that John 𝐷 called to ask if he could borrow a truck.
I told him I can make a couple phone calls and see if I can get a truck. He's like, okay, I'll meet you in Clinton.
What is this?
Kyle Alden and John 𝐷 stopped at a Shell gas station in Clinton, North Carolina, which is about halfway between here and Camp Lejeune.
And then we go into the gas station. He's like, you want something to drink? It's like, okay. And then we go back outside. We talk a little bit. He's like, what's the worst thing you've ever done? He said, the worst thing I've ever done is killed somebody.
What do you think he means by this?
I do not know. I did not want to know.
What else does he say?
He's like, you can't say anything about this, but I need your help doing something.
Okay, and did you ask him what he means?
No.
Are you worried at this point?
I'm kind of worried. I'm kind of hesitant. What could he have done? Why does he not want me to tell anybody?
The dam's beginning to break, right? The information's beginning to come forward.
Alden says they leave the Shell station, and about an hour later, the pair reaches their destination, Holly's apartment in Fayetteville. Here, Alden changes his story, now saying that the two did, in fact, go into the apartment.
You both get out of the truck.
And then we walk down the sidewalk, back over to his apartment. Then I come into the master bedroom, and the carpet's torn out.
I just don't think that he was prepared when he arrived at her apartment for what he saw.
So you guys carried that stuff out to the other truck?
Yes.
What do you do next?
We go back in for the blue bag thing, and then we just pick it up and carry it.
How much did the bag weigh?
Probably about 150 pounds.
What do you think was in the bag?
Thought crossed my mind. It's like, the worst thing he's ever done is killed somebody. We're in his house. There was a blood spot on his wall. There's a blood spot on the bed. There's a blood spot on the floor. What the hell happened? Am I carrying out a body?
He got really nervous talking about what he saw when he first arrived at the apartment. His carotid artery, you can watch that in a person, and when they really get nervous, it's almost like there's a little small green tree frog right in their throat. It's just throbbing.
We drive around for a little bit, and then he says, hey, we need to go to Walmart's.
Then a brazen act is caught on video.
When they got to Walmart and parked, they actually went to the bed of the truck, picked her body up, took it, put it in the cab of the truck, closed the door, locked it, went inside and shopped.
We grabbed 2 jugs of Shell oil.
They pay for the items at the register and head back to the truck.
They then came back out and removed her body from the interior of the truck and put it back in the bed. We retrieved that video. That was a really key piece of evidence for us that they had the callousness to do that.
Alden says the pair then head back towards Camp Lejeune, stopping along the way to pick up 𝐷 car. And then from there, they each drive to a secluded spot.
So what happens?
Then I continue to put the bags in the tote in the trunk, the big bag in the back seat of the car, and then I take off.
Alden says he then continues home, solo, and that was the end of his involvement.
Is there any details that we missed this time?
Not that I can think of right now.
But Detective Locklear has a hunch that Alden has more to tell. Could bringing him back for one more day of questioning finally break the case fully open?
The next day, when I walked back in that interview room, I had my chest poked out and my tail feathers were high because I was armed with information that I didn't have when I first went in there. And I let him know it.
Guess where I just come from? There's soot and dirt on my shoes. Why do you think there's soot and dirt on my shoes?
I have no idea.
I went where Holly's at. You have been lying to me since we met one another, right? but I don't understand why.
Sensing that Alden is still holding back, Detective Jeff Locklear, who happens to be a preacher's son, invokes a higher authority.
It's come to Jesus time, all right? But you can't get forgiveness unless you ask for forgiveness. You better get it out right now. Now you tell me the rest of it, tell me the rest of it.
Will that appeal get Alden to see the light? Will he finally tell the truth about what really happened to Holly?
I tell him, this stuff is scaring me. I don't know what to do.
In the NCIS building at Camp Lejeune, it's been 3 long days of questioning for Marine Kyle Alden. And it's at this point he finally tells investigators what he claims to know about John 𝐲𝐼𝐃𝐿's involvement in the death of his wife, Holly.
He called me, it was around 6:30. He said that he'd been there all morning and all afternoon. He said, I killed her. I didn't ask him how he killed her. I just said, why?
You have to be careful in situations like this. He's telling me a story, and if I encourage him and it's not correct, he go down the wrong road here.
Told me that she didn't die right away, so he had to hit her again. And I told him I don't want to hear that.
But he still kept telling you, didn't
he? Yes, sir.
What did he say?
He's like, the look in her eye, he'd never seen anything like it, the look in her eye.
Kyle Alden then says he and John 𝐲𝐼𝐃 are not yet done at the apartment.
He told me he had to burn the apartment and he had to let it burn for a really long time because he wanted to try to get rid of all the evidence.
They had devised a plan and made an agreement that they would drive her remains back to the area of Camp Lejeune and find somewhere at that point to bury the remains.
Investigators say they choose a place familiar to Alden.
Alden was living not far from here. How far away was he?
As the crow flies, about a half a mile. The reason they picked this area was he was familiar with it because he had been back here doing some target shooting. That's how he even knew that this place existed. I had enough probable cause at that time to charge him with the arson and the conspiracy to commit the arson. That allowed me to arrest him, Alden, and arrest 𝐲𝐼𝐃 and get my hands on him and get him back to Fayetteville.
With both men in custody, the focus now switches back to John 𝐲𝐼𝐃 and what possible motive could he have to kill his wife? Investigators believe the answer to that question lies in what they were told about John's alleged violent treatment of Holly.
The first time we really talked about it is when her and John 𝐲𝐼𝐃 got in the fight, and she showed up at my house. Her hair was a mess. She had scratches and claw marks all over her back.
We came out a couple of weeks on vacation to visit Holly, a couple of weeks before she was murdered, and I met him again once there. I just really didn't have a sense that there was anything until she began talking about a divorce.
Authorities come to learn that Holly filed for a protective order against John 𝐲𝐼𝐃 in May, less than 2 months before she was killed, in which she alleged a chilling encounter with her husband.
We discovered that there had been an incident in the prior months leading up to this where he had threatened suicide and also held a gun to her head.
To her head?
Correct.
Threatening to kill her?
Yes.
The night that Holly left John at the apartment, she was kind of telling me everything that happened, that John had threatened her. He carved her name into a bullet and told her, "This one's for you."
The fact that he was in the military and went as extreme as he did makes it so much worse, because his main priority should have been protecting her. That was his main job, was to protect a mother and a wife, and he couldn't, and he wouldn't do that.
After Holly did not show up for a court hearing on the protective order, the case was dismissed.
You need anything to drink? Glass of water, sir. You want some water? Fair enough.
Despite the growing amount of evidence against John 𝐲𝐼𝐃 implicating him in Holly's murder,
𝐄𝐏𝐿 still will not talk.
Armed with the information that Kyle had given investigators, they gave John 𝐄𝐏 an opportunity to come clean and tell what happened. He said he wasn't going to talk with them without an attorney present.
Okay, stand up. Follow me out here.
He was then charged with first-degree murder, second-degree arson, as well as conspiracy to commit second-degree arson.
Corporal John 𝐄𝐏 is accused of killing his wife, Second Lieutenant Holly 𝐄𝐏, a nurse stationed at Fort Bragg.
My client is presumed to be innocent. We don't want this case tried in the media. We want it to be tried in a court of law.
Taking a case to trial, there's always risk involved. In this case, we had very good information from Kyle, and the thought was that Kyle would testify at trial as to what happened, and then we would put all the circumstantial evidence together to point to the fact of what John 𝐄𝐏 had done that night.
While John 𝐄𝐏 pleads not guilty to all charges in connection with the arson and his wife's death, Kyle Alden is now cooperating with authorities. He agrees to take Detective Locklear through the night of Holly's murder at the scene of the crime.
It was very telling to bring him back to the spot. He had never been here before, right before that night. This is only the second time he had ever been here, and he could still remember where he parked.
I parked right there besides the Chrysler.
It was worth taking him back out there and having him tell it from the viewpoint of the guy that was there the night this happened.
From there, you guys went to...
we went back out towards Jacksonville Sneaks Ferry area.
Did he give an indication of why it is that he did what he did, what Alden did?
The only explanation that I'm aware of is that 𝐄𝐏, being another Marine, asked him for help, and he agreed.
You're a Marine, would you do that?
Absolutely not.
After he confessed, Kyle Alden was charged, and he ultimately pleaded guilty.
Kyle Alden was sentenced to approximately 5 years in prison.
And at a hearing for John 𝐄𝐏, Holly's brother Bo sees the man he once called a friend now accused of killing his sister.
So we stood up when 𝐄𝐏 came in, and he didn't even look. He didn't turn around.
Ultimately, in 2010, John 𝐄𝐏 pled guilty to first-degree murder.
John 𝐄𝐏 is sentenced to life in prison for arson, conspiracy to commit arson, and Holly's murder.
The district attorney called me and he said, I have 𝐄𝐏 here. His parents have convinced him to take a plea of life without parole. I said, you just take the plea and send him to prison. So that's what they did.
Did you hope there was a death penalty?
I personally wanted it, yeah. It's a different opinion than my dad's.
With John 𝐄𝐏 now behind bars, Jesse James still has questions.
Did you expect he would write back to you?
Will this father finally get answers from his daughter's killer?
She was honored in many ways.
It was a lavish funeral, and I did it on purpose because Holly was a big personality. The police in the community from several communities came, and the Patriot Guard. It looked like a state funeral.
Dignitary.
Dignitary, yeah. And that's what I wanted for Holly.
What was it like then to be at a funeral like that?
It's heartbreaking. And I just uncontrollably cried. It was awful. It was just in so many ways.
You put them together. The man that you introduced to your sister ultimately killed her.
Right. It's part of what haunts me for a long part of my life, absolutely.
But that's looking back. Nobody can ever predict something that they already learned.
But once you go through something, it's really hard to take it away. Pretending it didn't happen is hard, but coming to terms with it is even harder.
Sometimes I think every time I take a step here, maybe I'm taking a step in a place she has stepped. And that gives me a sense of presence.
Here in the hallway of Womack Army Medical Center, where Holly once worked. Her memory stands eternal, a silent testament to a life that will not be forgotten.
What does that say down there?
In memory of 2nd Lieutenant Holly James, for her joy, her service, and her support of mothers and babies.
Well, she was loved.
Yes, she was.
The pain of losing a daughter never fades, and neither do the unanswered questions.
So after all these years, you still want to know more?
Yeah, I'd like to know more.
Recently, Jesse made the difficult decision to reach out to John 𝐷𝐷𝐼𝐃, the man who murdered his daughter, through an online prisoner website.
John, both my son Jesse and I carry no anger toward you, but only grief for the loss of Holly. The level of grief we carry leaves no room for you. To my surprise, I did receive a response to my letter. The response goes like this: "Thank you for reaching out to me. You are entitled to answers, to which I will give them to you as best I can. I hope this will provide some closure for all parties involved."
Did you expect he would write back to you?
I thought he would. It took a long time, and the return letter went into the things like, yeah, we need to talk.
But rather than taking responsibility, 𝐷𝐷𝐼𝐃 outlines a process centered on his own terms and not on the needs of Jesse.
Even in that letter that he wrote, there's no apology. He does not care about what he did. He only cares about what's happening to him.
You are now communicating with the man who murdered your daughter. If you were to talk to him in person, would that be something that would be somewhat helpful to you?
I think being in the same room would have a negative impact on me. John, I can assure you that I have no interest in engaging in restorative justice or any sense of closure with you. How could you possibly restore 17 years of life without Holly? I've fought to live a life of joy because I didn't want to be a victim of John 𝐷𝐷𝐼𝐃 too.
So you've never been there?
Never been there.
Would you want to go there?
At this point, I think I would like to do that.
Years after his daughter was discovered here, Jesse James visits the sacred, hallowed ground for the first time. Not just to face where Holly's body was abandoned, but to honor her memory.
Not only for myself, but I'd like to represent my family and her friends that did not get to see her again.
What do you think about now?
I think that I miss my protector. She was always the big sister.
Today, those who loved Holly keep her memory alive, remembering her as the devoted mother and dedicated soldier she always strived to be.
What would you like the world to remember about Holly?
I think she should be remembered for trying to give so much. My sister loved protecting the people she cared about.
Got the same smile too, right there. I want people to remember her as a really good mother with the time she had.
I am very proud of who she was. A patriot is someone who goes above and beyond, and that's what she did. Like, no matter what.
Isn't she sweet?
She put everything above herself. And I don't think there's anything more patriotic than that.
There's something weird going on here, though. You are working on a case about a murder that hasn't happened yet. How it started before the murder trial of the season.
A seemingly healthy female that was brought into the ER, that was potentially now brain dead.
It's like we entered the Twilight Zone.
There's an investigation going on right now. Crime scene.
The package comes right to this desk, but it's like a Pandora's box because when it's opened, it sets off a chain of events, changes everything.
And the house of cards come crashing down.
including on this woman who's speaking out only to 2020. And so in the space of about 24 hours, you go from being complete strangers to basically being a couple.
I didn't know a lot about this guy, right?
The gates of hell had just been opened in front of you.
Yeah.
University Hospital, Aurora, Colorado. What you're seeing are the last moments of Angela Craig. She's a healthy mother of 6, and she's being rushed into the emergency room with these mysterious symptoms. In only hours, she's going to crash with very few clues as to why.
It just gives you goosebumps, it hits you in your core. She doesn't look herself, and it breaks your heart knowing that these are her final hours, these are her final minutes.
And so you're watching the slow motion murder happen in real time, and you have to try to stop it.
Yes, yeah.
Family, friends, and authorities at this point are just desperately trying to piece together what has happened here.
I'm gonna tell you something that's gonna sound really insane.
Maybe I watch too many crime shows, and maybe I shouldn't even say this.
It's Aurora Homicide Unit, and I was wondering if you have a minute to speak with me.
What is the motive? Is it money?
Was it somebody snapping? Spur of the moment?
Do you have any idea what you were actually getting into here?
There was no way of knowing because it just kept changing. It kept getting more stunning, more crazy.
It begins 21 days earlier, and over the course of those 21 days, trust will be broken, lies will be told, and it will end with Angela Craig's murder. It's February of 2023, and James Craig is heading home after presenting at this high-profile dental convention in Las Vegas, while his wife, Angela, is about to visit her older sister in Utah. Now, Angela's from this very tight-knit family. She's the youngest of 10 siblings and incredibly close to all of them. And what should have been a pleasant break from the Craig's routine will set off a stunning chain of events. James and Angela Craig have been married for 23 years. They've got 6 kids, ranging in age from 8 to 23, and the younger 4 still live at home. And the Craigs have lots of close friends they've made over the years, including their neighbors who moved from South Africa, and they became like family.
From the beginning, we really just loved them. We always made the joke, if something happened to us, we're moving in the basement with them because we always felt like they had our back.
James and Angela live in Aurora, Colorado, which is just outside of Denver.
Aurora is basically a suburb of Denver. You know, you cross one street, you're going from Denver to Aurora. It's the 3rd largest city in Colorado.
The Craig's house is part of this community of pretty big homes. It's a really lovely neighborhood with a lot of wealth.
On the whole street, everyone knew that house. They just opened the garage and it's like a train station all day.
Just people coming and going, grabbing a bite to eat, leaving, hanging out.
Mostly kids, just
all the street kids. We were always there.
James and Angela have a relationship that many people admire. They even post photos together on their joint Facebook account. And friends say that his sense of humor and her quick wit were just this perfect blend.
A lot of people looked up to their marriage and they made it seem fun, and raising 6 kids together in a crazy house.
Jim and Ange were very affectionate with each other in a way that I actually thought was really cute. Public displays of affection at that age, that long into a marriage, I thought actually was very refreshing.
James and Angela are very active in the Mormon Church.
They attend church, they pray together as a family. They study their scriptures together as a family. They actually serve in their local congregation, and James Craig was the Elders Quorum president, and that's a big deal. You're making sure that men are taken care of, that their families are taken care of. It's a big responsibility and a very respected leadership position.
Besides faith, Angela's other true calling is motherhood.
Her whole life revolved around her kids, 100%.
She had 6 children that she was caring for. She sounds like a supermom.
She definitely did. I always looked up to her. If I needed some mom advice, I would reach out to her.
She was like very witty and comments like even to the kids. Like I think one of her biggest sayings was like, "I love your stinking guts." Like she just said that all the time.
While Angela runs the home, James Craig is the provider. Now, James is actually Dr. James Craig, and he runs Summerbrook Dental Group, a practice he's owned for 17 years and which he promotes online.
My approach to dentistry begins with sincerely listening to the patient and wanting to find out more about where they're coming from and what they're looking for and what they want. I also have a very strong philosophy that a happy team makes happy patients.
Jim Craig was my dentist for the better part of a decade and did his advertising when I was a radio newsman. I remember talking about, trying to convince a radio audience, if you need a dentist, go see my friend, my dentist, Dr. Jim Craig. He's excellent.
For a dentist, he has a great smile. It's his best calling card, right?
When he smiled, it was his whole body that smiled. I mean, he leaned in forward, he giggled a lot. He just was very charismatic. He could get you to like him in 2 seconds.
He really was a positive guy.
On Summerbrook Dental's Facebook page, the team would post snippets of the levity of daily life at the practice. It was always front and center, including when James dressed up as the Tooth Fairy.
And here's the Tooth Fairy!
Hi! I heard you need a tooth extracted. I'm here to do the work.
In 2022, Dr. James Craig partners with Dr. Ryan Redfern, his longtime friend and fellow dentist who'd gone to dental school with.
Jim was extremely busy, had a lot of irons in the fire, but seemed to handle them very well. I thought that he was one of the smartest people I've ever met.
And fellow dentists are drawn to work at the practice because he's on the cutting edge of dental technology.
I couldn't believe all the cool stuff that he was doing at the office, all the exciting technology, things that really were a dream for a newer dentist.
And it's pretty financially lucrative as well.
He had a very large house. He was going on these lavish vacations with his family. I was like, wow, this guy has been very successful financially for a very long time.
James Craig is heading home to Angela and his kids from this dental convention in Las Vegas.
It was just another convention that he went to so many of them that I'm going to go train here and I'm going to go teach here, I'm going to go speak here.
But this convention is different. A countdown begins. Angela has 21 days left to live. And someone who attends that convention will unknowingly hold some of the clues as to what happens to Angela.
It's pretty terrible.
James and Angela Craig together again in their $1 million home. Remember, he'd been at that dental convention in Las Vegas. She was visiting family in Utah. Now it's back to their routine, recorded on their security cameras. What do you see in the video?
They're being a loving couple, normal husband and wife, normal mom and dad to their kids that are running around the house. They're doing dishes, they're making protein drinks. They drank a lot of protein drinks in that family. That was like a thing for them. Everybody's mixing up protein drinks.
What is not seen on camera, the calendar of a crime. Precious time is ticking away. From 21 days to murder, Angela Craig now has just 12 days to live. Can you describe the last days of Angela's life?
It begins on the morning of March 6th. Angela woke up and she did a really hard workout on her bike.
She rode her indoor bicycle, was very athletic, always drinking her protein shakes or workout smoothies.
And she starts to feel sick. She's not sure what's happening. She doesn't feel like herself.
At some point in the morning, Angela texts James Craig and says, I worked out, I drank the smoothie, and I'm not feeling well. I'm feeling dizzy. I'm feeling off.
Caitlin, the office manager, he came up to her and said, I just got a call from Angie. She's not feeling well. Her blood pressure, she's saying that her blood pressure is high.
Dr. Craig, still in his scrubs, races home and rushes Angela to the hospital.
The symptoms are, severe headaches. She's got nausea. She can't focus. Extremely sick.
Even after a battery of tests, Angela and her doctors are baffled. So this is not just a personal medical mystery. Medical professionals also couldn't figure it out.
Correct. She was confused about what was happening to her. Medical professionals were confused about what was happening to her.
Doctors finally diagnosed fatigue and elevated blood sugar, and Angela's released.
And she is desperately searching for why she is so sick. She was searching, I believe we were presented with 40 different searches from her phone alone that were all related to dizziness, being lightheaded, feeling very heavy.
When did you first learn that she had been feeling ill?
He texted me telling me that Angela's having this weird medical thingy, he called it. I thought, well, it's just probably a virus. There was no indication of the seriousness of it.
The next day, there's Angela. You can see she's supported by one of her daughters on her way to an urgent care. Then just days after that, another emergency, and there's Angela again, slumped on the counter as her daughter calls 911.
911, what's the address to the emergency?
I'm at home with my mom right now. She's been feeling a little sick for the past couple of days. She's throwing up, and she's throwing up a lot, and she's worried that she's going to crash and pass out. She doesn't think she can make it to the car so we can get her to the hospital.
Earlier that day, and this is hard to watch, after passing out, Angela crawling on hands and knees.
She's so sick. She's so sick.
Once again, she goes to the ER, desperate for answers.
This time, she is admitted because her symptoms are so much worse.
She's feeling horrible, and no one can figure out what the hell's going on with her. Somebody knew. Someone knew.
Angela ends up being in the hospital for 5 days, and James is coming over every evening after work and taking care of the children. He's bringing her food.
Angela Craig is strong, though, and she recovers enough to be released. And she's looking forward to a return to normal life with her husband and kids, never knowing that now she has only 4 days to live. She thanks him at one point for taking such good care of her.
Thank you for essentially carving out time for me. I know that you're holding the fort down, at home and doing all these other things, but I really appreciate it.
Angela Craig has just 3 days to live.
And then boom, sick again, and new symptoms and different symptoms.
And in the vein of trying to care for her, Jim Craig is saying, why don't we give you clindamycin?
Yeah, so originally they potentially thought that she had a sinus infection. And so as a dentist, he can prescribe antibiotics.
Clindamycin, a medication meant to treat sinus infections, among other things, and something that James Craig had prescribed to his wife, Angela Craig.
Dr. Craig reminds Angela's brother, Mark Prey, to give Angela her medicine.
He gives her 2 of those capsules in the morning, and around 20 minutes later, Angela Craig is saying she can't hold herself up anymore. So Mark Prey, Angela's brother, rushes her to the hospital.
She ends up going to University Hospital and checking in and never checking out.
By 2 o'clock that afternoon, Angela has deteriorated. Her organs are failing. She's put on life support. She is intubated.
One of their daughters just called, and she was just crying And she just said, the doctors are saying that my mom's not going to make it. And I was like, what? Like, what do you mean?
And people start to wonder, how did things go so wrong? Because, you know, there's nothing more contagious than a bad case of suspicion.
You're getting ready to accuse somebody.
The moment you say something,
Pandora's box is opened.
Angela Craig is running out of time. She's dying right before her doctor's eyes, and the cause of her illness is still unknown until one extraordinary day. This day, this March 15th day,
It's like we entered the twilight zone.
Yeah, that's a weird day.
It's a crazy day.
James Craig alerts their business partners and their longtime friends, Ryan and Michelle Redfern.
And when he basically conveyed that she was not looking good, I said, would you like us to come to the hospital?
Not looking good as in she might die.
She might die, yes.
And Michelle, when you're driving to the hospital, you get a call from Jackie Calderon, who is the operations manager.
She called and she said that she had Caitlin on the phone, and Caitlin was pretty upset that she had opened a package on Monday. And I said, what was in the package?
This is Dr. Craig's office. We got access to where he actually practiced dentistry, and offices like this, they get a lot of packages. And on March 13th, 2023, a package comes right to this desk, but it's like a Pandora's box, because when it's opened, it sets off a chain of events, changes everything.
The package itself out of the box, it was about this big, and it was like a thick foil, and it was sealed shut.
Office manager Caitlin Romero will later tell detectives that while his wife is fighting for her life, Dr. Craig is anxiously awaiting a special delivery.
He said, I'm going to have a personal package delivered to the office. So, and he had asked me multiple times about it during the week, did my package come in?
Dr. Craig's package does come in, but an employee opens it, and Caitlin Romero takes a look and says, huh.
I saw that it said potassium cyanide.
Okay.
And so I closed the box back up, I gave it to him.
2 days later, she tells her boss about it, operations manager Jackie Calderon.
I called Jackie and I told her, I'm gonna tell you something and it's gonna sound really insane.
And I said, no. Are you sure it wasn't potassium chloride? Was he ordering salt? She goes, no, it was potassium cyanide. She goes, I didn't know what that was. The next day I looked it up.
Kind of was looking at the side effects from that, and that was everything that his wife was going through.
All the symptoms match exactly what's wrong with Angie.
And so Jackie and Caitlin get on a call immediately with Michelle and Ryan Redfern.
And she said it was potassium cyanide. And my gut dropped.
Is there any medical need in dentistry for potassium cyanide?
Absolutely not.
It's poison.
It's poison.
And he goes, Caitlin, are you sure that is what you saw? And she said, yes.
And I said, well, I'm going to tell somebody. I have to.
Is there a thought in your mind right now that if you don't intervene quickly enough, that Angela could die?
I felt like she was alive and fighting for her life.
And time is of the essence.
And time is of the essence.
Ryan had to make a couple of really quick decisions here. He had to decide whether this information was important enough to tell the hospital, and he also had to face the really hard realization that his business partner and friend may be the reason that Angela is in the hospital fighting for her life.
You're getting ready to accuse somebody
of killing their wife.
The moment you say something to an official at the hospital,
Pandora's box is opened.
Pandora's box is open.
Nothing's ever the same, whether it's true or not.
hoping you're wrong, but knowing that regardless, life just changed. Jim was our friend. I liked him. He was a great guy. He was funny. And we were gonna lose both of them.
And the first person Ryan sees at the hospital, James Craig.
And all of a sudden, I heard my name, and I look up, and it's Jim. And we embrace, and he cries. I cry with him. And he says, it doesn't look good. She might die tonight. is what he said to me.
Inside the hospital, in a dark hallway, Ryan flags down a nurse.
I said, I received some news on the way to the hospital here that I just got like 30 minutes ago. And I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I don't even know how to say this. I'm not saying he did or didn't, but it's possible that she is a victim of potassium cyanide poisoning.
And what happens?
I went back out to the waiting room.
As if nothing happened.
As if nothing happened.
And Jim is right there.
And Jim's right there. Yeah.
At that point, we're seeing security running down the hall. They're entering the ICU. Security is now in the waiting room. You're beginning to see
the hospital's response.
People are kind of running around. And so Ryan says, I think it's time for us to leave. So they walked out to their car. They both went into Michelle's car, and Jim called Ryan right away.
Jim calls.
Ryan, I've heard some disturbing news.
And I said, yeah, Jim. And I said, yeah. I said, you had a package delivered to the office. What was in the package, Jim? And he was like, well, it was, if you have to know, it was a ring for Angie. And I said, no, Jim, it wasn't a ring. And I said, what do you need potassium cyanide for, Jim? And he was just like, oh, Ryan, what have you done?
Oh, Ryan, what have you done? And then he immediately said, I bought it.
Yeah.
And I thought,
I said, yeah, I bought it. And
well, now there's no doubt.
At the end, near the end, I said, Jen, stop talking and get a lawyer. Stop talking and get a lawyer. You're going to need one.
So the hospital calls, their forensic nursing staff calls us.
Aurora police detectives are at University Hospital, and the house of cards come crashing down.
Now, a pair of Aurora detectives is on the case. They're armed with search warrants, and they are determined to get to the bottom of what's killing Angela Craig. In the case of Angela Craig, there was a time for doctors. Now, it's a time for detectives. In the 5 years you've been doing homicide, you've probably seen shootings, right? Probably stabbings.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yep.
How about poisoning?
No, this is our first poisoning.
We get to the Aurora police station.
And we're there for hours.
Hours
and hours.
We're finally released about 4 a.m.
About 4 a.m.
After a few hours of sleep, Michelle and Ryan Redfern wake up to a text message from their good friend, James Craig. You wake up to this text.
He's reading it to me.
I'm reading it to her. I am very, very mad at you. For now, what you thought was responsible has become reckless and so destructive.
It still angers you to read this today.
It does. And so I'm asking, if there was ever any love in your heart for me, please don't make this any worse by talking to any officers or anyone else about this. My response was, forward to Bobby Joe Olson. Immediately. That's what I did.
Strange as it sounds, Angela Craig's death investigation is well underway, even though she is still alive, although the end is near.
There's an investigation going on right now, so it's a crime scene.
Family and friends gather at the Craig home.
It was a cold evening, and I remember it had just started like snowing, and we pulled up there, and there was a lot of police activity.
We're supposed to come out here and sit on this address and not let anybody else in.
Okay.
Officers allow the family dogs to leave.
You guys want to take the dogs or something? That's fine, you can take the dogs.
Then Dr. Craig arrives.
Say, Brian, we got the husband right here.
Craig?
Yeah, Jim Craig.
Okay, so he's just
Craig is last name? So we've been directed by our detectives that nobody's allowed back inside the house.
Okay.
So it's basically a death investigation right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Detectives send word that they'd like Dr. Craig to come down to headquarters.
We'd like to go to headquarters and talk
Tonight?
to detectives, yeah. Yep.
Okay. If I get down there, I'm not going to want to answer any questions. I'm going to probably lawyer up.
So you don't want to go down there right now?
I don't want to, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're free to go.
And at this point, Detectives Bobby Olson and Molly Harris are working round the clock.
We did not go home. I mean, this was, again, sleeping under a desk, taking a 15-minute naps. like power naps and waking up and going.
Next morning, it's time for an unscheduled dentist appointment with Dr. Craig, who's staying at a friend's house.
It's freezing out here.
Yeah. I'm Detective Olson. This is Detective Gra.
Okay.
I guess we're coming to, talk to you or kind of see if you want to talk to us.
Okay.
Is that something you're interested in?
No.
Okay. And that's fine. So we have a search warrant basically for your cell phone, Angela's cell phone, your wallet, and or your laptop.
Okay.
And that was our first interaction, March 16th at about 8:30 in the morning.
What'd you make of him?
He was scared out of his mind.
So, am I a suspect in something right now then? So here's where we're at. There are questions.
Yeah. And I have
based
answers.
on what we've heard.
Yeah.
Well, my understanding is you wanted to talk to an attorney before you talked to us.
Yeah.
Perfectly within your rights, and I totally get it.
Yeah.
But we do have those questions.
Right.
So, until they're answered, it's hard to say
Yeah.
yes or no to what you just asked me. Am I a suspect or not? Well, I guess it kind of depends.
And the next stop is a search of the Craig family home.
All right, so this is the house. And do you have any idea what you're looking for?
We still don't, right? Like, all we know is the potassium cyanide was delivered to the dental office.
Visitors to the Craig family home are greeted with that inscription, "Welcome to our happily ever after."
We did find some medications related to Angela Craig. We did find numerous powders, if you will, but we were really looking for any and everything without the knowledge of what exactly the consistency was of those potential poisons.
Yeah, we didn't even know what does cyanide look like.
They don't find a smoking gun, but still, their suspicion begins to throb like a toothache when investigators find a text message Dr. Craig sent Angela when she first got sick.
This is very early on in her illness, and she's telling him, I feel drugged. And his response is, well, given our history, I can see how that would be triggering. Just for the record, I didn't drug you.
So he has a history of drugging her?
As far as we know, in 2018, he sedated Angela without her knowledge or consent, and he says he did so because he wanted to take his own life and he didn't want her to interfere.
Vivian Fandemarva and her daughters Jessica and Tama say they got a glimpse of something strange when they went to comfort the Craig family. Dr. Craig was leading everyone in a prayer.
He was basically like yelling, and he was like so red in the face and just like animated about it, and he was just screaming that like he will see Angela in heaven again and all sins are forgiven. It wasn't a prayer about her, but almost just like about his salvation, and that it doesn't matter what sins we've done, he will still make it into heaven and he'll be with her again.
He was demanding his salvation.
He was demanding his salvation.
I think that's when we saw a Jim that we never knew.
We walked away in absolute shock.
And then the end of 21 horrible days. The clock stops. The death investigation now has a death. Angela Craig is gone. When is Angela officially pronounced dead?
March 18th. Family members had told us that he had called them and said that he did not want an autopsy performed because if they couldn't figure out what had happened to her when she was alive, he did not want them poking and prodding when she was dead.
Fortunately, James didn't get to make that decision.
This is a homicide investigation, and there is going to be an autopsy. Now, what that autopsy and the investigation turn up next is enough to turn your stomach.
Arsenic, potassium cyanide, they're drugs out of, some dime store novel or, murder mystery from 100+ years ago.
But proving Dr. Craig is the poisoner, that's another matter. Detectives binge on endless hours of Craig family security video. What will they find?
This is kind of the old southern area of Aurora.
Okay, so we're talking about a medical plaza. This is not just a standalone dental clinic.
No, that's correct. And then they're up on that third floor. Do you see the?
I do. I see the dental chairs and the apparatus.
The dental office of Dr. James Craig in Aurora, Colorado. Scenes of cavities, root canals, countless cleanings.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you. And now, a search for evidence in Angela Craig's unexpected illness and untimely death.
You can have a seat there. The office manager, 𝐄𝐏𝐿 Romero, who really is one of the major heroes of this whole story, because without her, there's a chance that this goes undetected.
I know that there's been some concerning observations that you guys had in the practice itself as it relates to James.
She told us about how on March 6th, in the evening, she was locking up. She thought she was the only employee there.
We got exclusive access to the dental office at the very center of this case, and so we can show you exactly what 𝐄𝐿 Romero saw that night. Right here, she noticed in exam room number 9, Dr. James Craig sitting at a computer here.
He was sitting in there, and he was sitting in the dark. The light was off, and he was on the computer in there.
This was really unusual because typically Dr. Craig did not stay late, and if he were working on a computer, it would be on a laptop in his office.
And he said that he had gotten his wife home and situated, and it had been a stressful day, and he just needed a break, which is why he came back to the office.
So what was he doing there in exam room number 9?
One of the first searches that he does is how to make murder look like a heart attack. There are hundreds of searches about poisons, and he read a lot of news articles about other poisonings.
Cyanide, oleander, arsenic, tetrahydrozoline, an ingredient commonly found in eye drops.
He's trying to cover his tracks. He doesn't think anybody's ever going to look at exam room number 9's computer.
Also on that computer, according to police, evidence of a poison shopping spree. And the arsenic is in the mail, and it's captured on home security video.
This is the moment he goes to pick up the arsenic.
The arsenic gets delivered, yes, at 1:49, and we see the post office truck driving past, and then you see him exit the house at 1:51. He's at the mailbox getting it out of there.
Then he buys a lot of Visine, a lot of eye drops. We're talking 19 bottles in 2 days.
Plenty of poison. The question is how to get his wife to ingest it. Now, authorities watched this home security video. That's how he did it. They say James Craig spiked his wife's shakes and smoothies.
Now, we do get a couple of images on the home surveillance of James Craig doing suspicious things. You see him in and out of the refrigerator with Angela's shaker bottles, and you see him preparing the drinks that she then later is consuming. So it's probable that he's administering arsenic on March 6th in her protein shake.
When Angela went into the hospital on March 9th, she had an elevated level of arsenic in her blood, enough to make you feel sick, to make you feel dizzy, enough to make you feel like you've been drugged.
And so he's giving Visine to her, probably also in her drinks, because her bottle on the bedside table that we collected and had analyzed, it has tetrahydrozoline in it.
Prosecutors also point to this hospital video of James Craig arriving on March 15th with food and a drink, heading right to Angela's bedside.
My job as the forensic pathologist is to speak for the decedent and to tell their last story. They can't speak for themselves. I have to be that person that brings to light what has happened to them.
And Dr. Kelly Lear says what happened to Angela Craig was murder.
Her cause of death was cyanide and tetrahydrozoline poisoning. Her manner of death was homicide.
How many separate occasions do you believe that James Craig poisoned Angela?
I mean, it was throughout those 10 days, from March 6th through March 15th. He never stopped poisoning her.
The night after Angela Craig is pronounced dead, detectives lure her husband to police headquarters with a ruse.
I had called him and told him I was going to give him his phone back.
How you doing?
Well, thank you.
Hi. Hi, bud. You are under arrest.
Okay.
Okay, first degree murder.
Whoa.
He didn't seem surprised, calm and collected, and really no sort of fight or, dispute of why he was there.
I didn't expect this. Sorry, God.
Inside the police station, detectives tell the accused murderer he's got two options: talk or take the fifth.
Yeah, we're going to take your cuffs off here for you. And then if you just want to have a seat. So I do have the arrest warrant for the murder of Angela.
My gosh.
I just want to give you that opportunity to tell us what you know.
As you can imagine, this is terrifying for me.
Mm-hmm.
And you both seem very nice and like you're on my side, but I know how this works, and I don't want to incriminate myself or say anything stupid, or I don't know how to navigate this. I've never done this before, and I'm scared to death.
That's understandable.
Yeah. I can tell you I did not kill my wife.
And this is where it's really unusual, because Craig asks the detectives who had just arrested him for advice.
Oh, this is horrible. Detective Olson, what would you do if you were in my position?
I feel for you. I really do.
I trust you.
So,
what would you do?
And I can't give you legal advice, and I can't tell you what to do.
And at this point, the dentist who'd spent years telling patients to open wide, he decides to keep his mouth shut.
Oh my gosh. I have all of the answers that you need, but I can't talk. I can't.
The next sound you hear, that marks the beginning of the end of James Craig's career as a dentist and the start of his new calling as a defendant.
Thank you.
Police now begin to rewind the last 21 days in the life of James Craig. You're talking about a case with poison, infidelity, betrayal, Vegas.
How did you meet him?
At a dental meeting in Las Vegas.
And rest assured, what happened in Vegas is not going to stay in Vegas.
It just kept going. The deceit, manipulation, shock value of this case kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it was shocking.
I'm going to take a leap here and say that this is probably the first time that you've ever seen a protein shaker as a murder weapon.
Yes. Marriages only end in two ways: death or divorce.
Or murder in the trial that just wrapped.
They proved beyond a reasonable doubt that this guy was a pretty crappy husband. He cheated on his wife constantly.
There's always another woman.
And this one is talking exclusively to 2020. So he invited you to his house in the hours after his wife had died?
Yeah. She has no idea what she's getting herself into.
Probably one of the more insidious, horrible things that I have ever seen in this business.
How common is it for you to have a case in which the person facing murder charges tries to put a hit out on the lead detective?
I was a sitting duck.
We're about to see deepfake videos, murder for hire, a secret sugar daddy. It can't get any worse.
That kind of manipulation is just in movies.
Investigators have just made a shocking arrest in the murder of Colorado mother of 6, Angela Craig. It's her devoted dentist husband, James.
There are answers. There are answers, and this makes a lot of sense once those answers come out.
Dr. James Craig had seemed to be the very picture of success. A business owner with a thriving dental practice who was a loving father.
Looking back, there was just nothing that would indicate there were any problems.
Well, a father of 6 children and an Aurora dentist is accused of poisoning his wife.
You can see a lot about a person through their eyes. A lot. He looked dead in his eyes in the mugshot. It's a shot of full exposure without hope.
It looked like he had been crying, but it didn't look like he'd been crying because he just lost his wife. It looked like he'd been crying because he got caught.
The Aurora dentist accused of poisoning and killing his wife was in court this morning.
James Craig is formally charged with first-degree murder. He pleads not guilty, but he's accused of poisoning Angela, lacing her protein shakes.
The poisoning aspect to this was so unique. We were seeing this story play out all over the country. I think the fact of who the Craigs were lent a great deal into this national interest. The fact that a dentist, it's a profession that you believe you can trust.
The arrest warrant is 52 pages, and it's got a lot of the evidence that police have collected so far, including photos and text messages.
You read page after page after page. You're going, there's no way that somebody could be so cruel.
But on page 36, there is this huge revelation. Right there is a name, Dr. Karen Kane. She's an orthodontist from Texas. Was this an aha moment in the case?
It was definitely an additional person that we needed to find.
When detectives search James Craig's email account, which they say he used to order poisons, they find this trove of what they say are steamy emails with a fellow dental professional, Dr. Karen Kane. And the correspondence seems to indicate that the two had just met about 3 weeks earlier, but their relationship seems to have gotten very serious very quickly.
It seems like you do these types of stories, news, long enough, there's always another woman.
Now, Dr. Karen Kane is speaking for the first time to us in this exclusive interview, and I first met her back in 2023, only months after James Craig was arrested. And back then, she was still sifting through the wreckage. And Karen Kane has a very different story to tell about what was unfolding those last 21 days of Angela Craig's life. And we start at the very beginning. And this is where Karen first meets James Craig at that dental convention in Vegas where he was speaking. When was the first time that you saw James?
Standing in line to get on this shuttle bus to take us to our corporate dinner that the meeting was putting on. We just started talking, ended up sitting next to each other on this shuttle ride over to dinner, and he was like, can I, sit with you at dinner and finish this conversation?
At this point, Karen is in the process of finalizing a divorce. She'd been married for 27 years, 2 grown kids, out of the house. Her husband had moved out just over a year before, and she says she'd made peace with her new life, living alone. But that's when she meets James Craig. First impression.
I mean, there's not like an immediate physical attraction. Sweet eyes, great smile, just easy, so easy to talk to.
Okay, so initial reaction, is this friend vibe, or is this, this could be something more than friend?
Definitely friend vibe.
Karen says in those initial conversations that they're connecting because there's so much common ground. She says that James kind of like opens his heart up to her, that he's also going through a painful divorce. And he tells her that he and his wife of 23 years just split at the end of last year. What did he tell you about his life, his marriage,
he told
his
me
children?
He had 6 kids and that he had filed for divorce in 2022, that they hadn't been living together. He had an apartment and that he was staying at the apartment, but they would trade and he would, do kid duty.
Karen says their connection was also spiritual. They're both deeply connected to their faith.
There's somebody who's kind of going through the same struggle I'm going through and leans on the Lord the way I would, and just seems super easy to talk to. So we spent this Thursday evening getting to know each other, and then we texted until 4 a.m. that night.
What are you texting about until 4 a.m.?
At that point it was like, just, compliments. Then the next day we, spent pretty much the day together.
She knew she was falling fast, but she was still wary. And so in the space of about 24 hours, you go from being complete strangers to basically being a couple.
Well, at least having the semblance of knowing a lot about each other.
Still, she told him she had boundaries, and she says their relationship wasn't consummated. What was the goodbye like?
It was nice. We kissed, and He left, and then my flight got delayed, and so he came back and got another kiss, and then I actually left.
You come back to Texas, he goes to Colorado, and it continues.
So we're FaceTiming, and I don't think I went to bed before 2 o'clock in the morning any night over the next 2 weeks.
A few nights, she says, he even put in an earbud and he'd let Karen listen as he did Bible study with his children before putting them to bed. So you were a fly on the wall in his family. He took you right in there.
In my mind, I didn't know a lot about this guy, right? And so I was like, well, if I can see him through his kids' eyes, then that's going to be my most true look into who he really is.
Well, that and the 4,000 text messages authorities say they exchanged over 21 days. And within a number of days already, they were using the L word, love. How big was the rush you were feeling during this time?
So
Texting
great.
and talking and FaceTiming.
So great. Yeah.
Like a drug almost.
Lots. Yeah. Just, yeah. There was a lot of just feeling like so connected.
He says he even composes a song in her honor.
She saw him standing there.
It's called Enough, and it's a sad ballad with lyrics that say her life was bleak and bad until she met him. But after she meets him, she finally knows she's enough.
And she finally feels like enough.
The two decide they want to meet again in person, with Karen booking a ticket to Colorado the following week, March 8th. Now, remember, James Craig has told Karen he's living apart from his wife, and he's in the end stages of his divorce. But just before the trip, James tells Karen that Angela is in the hospital. Nobody knows what's wrong, and he's going to have to watch the kids. And Karen reschedules her trip for a week later, March 16th.
When she first went, he was like, they can't find anything wrong with her. They've done all this testing. So really, it was all so mysterious.
Karen says that James Craig told her he suspects that Angela might be harming herself.
He would kind of talk with like a frustration, like, I can't believe she's doing this.
Nonetheless, Karen still heads to Colorado, but this trip will go nothing like she's planned.
Hi, Karen?
Yes.
I'm Sergeant Lawnecker with the Aurora Homicide Unit. Taking Jim into custody for homicide.
Angela Craig is in critical condition, and Karen Kane feels that it's not the right time to visit, but James Craig urges her to come anyway.
I'll go ahead and come, and I'll just sit in the hotel until, you know, you're able to spend some time, and then I can be there to just kind of be a break and help carry some of this weight.
Karen says James has told her that Angela is not likely to recover. He also tells her that police have blocked his entry into his own home as they investigate. His house is taped off by police. They've had a search warrant.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think at some point maybe I shouldn't take this trip?
I knew the police were looking, and I knew they were going to find that she had somehow hurt herself.
Karen gets on a plane from Texas and lands in Denver. She has no idea what she's getting herself into. No idea.
When you were in Colorado with him, did he ask you to come meet his family and be there?
He offered at one point that I could come. There would be a lot of people in the house. I would just be his friend from Austin and yada yada. And I was like, nope. That seems like a pretty sacred space and time that doesn't need to involve me. And we had 2 dinners. It was pretty much the only time I saw him while I was there.
Did he seem distracted in those dinners?
You know, I would just be like, are you okay? Like, are you really okay? Tell me.
Did he seem sad? Did he seem distraught? Did you talk about Angela at all?
We talked about how he was doing, how the kids were doing, but not a lot really specifically about Angela in that moment. He at no point seemed stressed or anxious. He didn't seem heavy-hearted. he seemed pretty, at ease.
He might have appeared at ease to Karen, but police are narrowing in on their suspect, and they've been poring over his communications on his phone and email. And so you realize during the search of these emails that he's having this steamy romance with this woman named Karen Kane, and she's in town right now.
Yes.
How do you track her down?
The night he was arrested, he had a hotel key on him.
And lo and behold, at that hotel is Karen Kane.
And so officers went to the hotel and asked if he had a room or if Karen had a room and made contact with her in the hotel room.
The officers did?
Yes.
Yeah.
Our sergeant did.
It sounds like the truth came knocking on your hotel room door at
2 a.m. Mm-hmm.
Hi, Karen.
Yes.
I'm Sergeant 𝐅𝐔𝐋 with the Aurora Homicide Unit. We've taken Jim into custody for homicide, and I was wondering if you have a minute to speak with me.
Can you walk me through what happened?
When I opened the door and saw police there, I just kind of went right into almost like robotic mode of all right, I'm just gonna brace myself for whatever's happening in this moment.
We are aware of yours and Jim's relationship, and he's been taken into custody for killing his wife.
What are they telling you?
We just want you to know that we've arrested him for first-degree murder of his wife.
What did he tell you has been going on with his wife?
Just that he said he told her in November that he wanted a divorce. They told the kids together in December. He filed in January, early February. I'm kind of worried that she might hurt herself. So we've had a history of that.
Has he talked to you at all about poisons?
Just told me that she had gotten some stuff in the past from his work.
It was about 10 minutes maybe that they were in there. They told me there's lots of evidence, against him in this.
But the information Karen is learning only gets worse.
Okay, so here's basically where we're at. He's never told her he wants a divorce. He's never told her there's no talk of him moving out with the kids. She has no idea anything about a divorce. He's purchased poisons, and she's now dead because of poisons. So a lot of the things he's told you, assuming you've told me the truth, are all nonsense. There's no history of suicide by her. There's no anything.
So are you concerned at this point that you might be a target of the investigation?
No.
Are you concerned that this investigation is going to go anywhere at this point?
No. You
think this is just totally bogus?
Yeah.
All right, ma'am. Take care of yourself.
When did you first speak to Karen yourselves?
On the morning of the 20th, I had called her, and then I met her again at the hotel.
Nice to meet you, I'm Karen. Nice to meet you, I'm Karen.
It was apparent when we met her that she had no idea that he was doing this. He had lied to her. He had told her that he was living in an apartment. He would have a week with the kids at the house, and then she would stay at the apartment, and they would flip. He's very savvy when he speaks, and she believed him, and he 100% manipulated her as well. She knew nothing.
A stunned Karen leaves Colorado to go home to Texas as she tries to process the past 48 hours. And when she reads the arrest affidavit, it's almost impossible for her to comprehend, because she learns that within days of meeting her, James has allegedly researched potassium cyanide and buying other deadly poisons. What was that like?
That's real dissociative for me. I don't have any sort of headspace of my reality where that fits. That's all stuff of a novel and movie. I went back and I reread all our messages and kind of replayed it all, and I don't feel like I missed red flags. You don't know you're being lied to until you know.
Right, who's just so good at spinning these tales.
All the plates spinning all the right ways.
And as detectives dig further into James Craig's past, they're going to uncover other women. They're also going to learn that the murder plot may have started before Karen Kane even entered the picture.
At first I thought he was just joking, yeah. But then it got darker and darker.
And I still can't believe it. To this day, I can't believe it.
When James Craig is arrested, the whole world learns about Karen Kane. Could she be a possible motive behind the murder of his wife? And as investigators dig deeper into his digital world, they discover something else. Actually, they discover someone else.
He told me that he was a very well-known dentist and that he was very involved in his church, that he had 6 kids.
𝐅𝐔𝐋𝐋 meets James Craig through a dating website called 𝐅𝐔𝐋𝐋.com. And authorities would later determine James Craig has carried on sexual relationships with at least 3 women he met on this site over the past several years.
This app was set up to arrange sugar dating relationships. So some kind of a relationship where you benefit in some format from that connection. So on this app, James Craig had a number of women who he would support financially in some ways or other means as well.
And James Craig's profile name on the site is Jim and Waffles. Both really nice to wake up to, he writes. He also says he's worth about $10 million. 𝐅𝐔𝐋𝐋 is this mother of 3 who met James Craig after she got out of what she describes as this troubled relationship. And in comes James, and she says he's showering her with all these expensive gifts. She says he even pays her attorney's retainer in her custody battle, and he buys her daughter an almost $9,000 car. He had also sent Carrie an original song like he did for Karen Kane. Hers is much more upbeat.
But I only think of you.
It's called I Don't Want to Be All Right Without You.
𝐅𝐔𝐋𝐋 is an important witness in the case because he is arguably the most honest with her about how he feels about the state of his marriage.
Detectives find a series of potentially damning text messages in which James is asking for help dealing with his problem. The problem he's talking about is his wife. It's Angela.
He describes it over and over to her as a problem and as a situation. And he's talking about needing a solution to his problem. And he talks about feeling stuck and hopeless and helpless.
He started telling me, well, I don't know how to leave her because of the finances. He just said, our finances are very intertangled and it would be almost impossible to separate them.
Despite those appearances, James Craig has had a really rocky past few years financially. He'd been through 2 bankruptcies in 2020. He paid off one of them, and he partnered up with Ryan Redfern. That arrangement was helping him service the other bankruptcy, but times are still pretty tough for him, and Ryan Redfern says he sits James down to tell him things need to change if he's going to keep his practice afloat.
Ryan Redfern says, you're gonna have to take a big pay cut, and you're gonna have to work more hours. Take less time off. That's just 2 days after he's telling 𝐅𝐔𝐋𝐋, I can't get divorced. The financial leash is tightening.
January 2023, 2 months before Angela Craig's death, and he texts Carrie something that she says stops her cold in her tracks.
He kind of made it sound like if he couldn't figure this out, that he was suicidal.
She sort of tells him, you have so much to live for. And his response to her is the most telling statement we get from James Craig in the entire case. And he says, I'm not suicidal. I'm just stuck. I'm not happy, but I can't get divorced right now. And that's on January 14th of 2023. He's saying it clearly that he cannot get divorced.
But I still did not think that he was like really talking about hurting Angela.
But then Carrie says his tone begins to change and he seems to proposition her.
Well, I remember thinking, this is really dark, you know? And there's no way I'm getting involved. So I kind of tried to lighten it up and make it more of a joke, like just to get out of the conversation. Like, hey, there's a lot of homeless people that live by your work. Why don't you talk to them about one of these, or your problem, because they have nothing to lose. So he ends up getting frustrated, it seems, and says, well, maybe that is actually my only option, is to hit up a homeless person. And then he goes on to kind of try to reel me into it, even though I'm not, engaging, and says I could pay handsomely. I made $60,000 last month, and I know you need help. I would love to help you. And that was like, whoa, it just made it so real, I guess.
Within weeks, she says she stopped answering his texts. And then about a month later, she sees an article online, and it has James Craig's mugshot.
I immediately just started crying. Like, I was like, oh my God, he did it. Oh my God. Like, I just couldn't believe it.
Carrie admits she feels guilty for not calling the police, but they eventually track her down, and she tells her story.
I think you said it just like that. Like, I have this problem.
Marriages only end in two ways, death or divorce. And he is giving 𝐅𝐔𝐋𝐋 the impression that it's financial, that he doesn't want to suffer those financial consequences of divorce.
Before this case can go to trial, there will be even more astounding allegations against James Craig, this time from behind bars.
The first thing he does is probably one of the more insidious, horrible things that I have ever seen in this business.
Over the course of the roughly 2 years that this case really unfolded, we first saw James Craig as this jovial appearing father, very big smile in all the pictures. You can tell he's a dentist. His teeth were very prominent in all of those pictures.
Turning dental care into a positive experience. You've done it a lot. How do you do it?
Oh man, well, when patients come to our practice, the first thing that we go over with them is you don't have to be afraid.
As the court process really unfolds, you start seeing him appear looking more scruffy, ragged.
To see him go downhill, physically looking, has definitely stuck with me. I don't know if he's trying to look the part.
But it'll be more than 2 years before this case goes to trial. And during this time, James Craig somehow, astonishingly, manages to rack up even more serious charges from behind bars. And one of the plots he's accused of hatching involves his own teenage daughter.
The first thing he does is probably one of the more insidious, horrible things that I have ever seen in this business.
James Craig's daughter says he called her and said, hey, you need to come bail out this inmate. He's going to have some information for you. The daughter does as she was asked. At some point, she realizes, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. She calls her older brother and her uncle. They rush over there. The inmate hands the daughter a letter, and she reads that letter. And in that letter, it's essentially a step-by-step instruction guide for James Craig's daughter on how to build a deep fake or an AI video of her mother, essentially depicting that she had wanted these poisons, that she was suicidal, that she did this to herself. He really wanted the metadata on that video to be connected to February 27th, 2023. That's the day of that initial arsenic being ordered as well.
So he's asking his own daughter to commit a felony to help him in his case.
Yes.
Without batting an eye. 18 years old. Recently turned 18 years old. She had her 18th birthday while Angela was still in the hospital.
And how do you find out about this?
She, through the family attorney, gets it to the authorities. She was absolutely not going to do any of the very detailed step-by-step instructions that her father had provided her.
bringing your daughter into it and potentially having your daughter culpable in a crime, having your daughter bond out an inmate that you don't know, I mean, all the things, there's so many things that are wrong with that. It's mind-blowing.
And shockingly, this is not the only crime that he's alleged to have cooked up from inside jail. Other inmates claim James is soliciting them to lie on his behalf. And as payment, these inmates say he's offering them money, even dental work. And then another inmate comes forward to authorities.
I'm just like this, dude. It's like the movies, man.
He had a fellow cellmate named Nathaniel Harris, and James Craig and Mr. Harris would spend a lot of time together. James Craig started to say really nasty things about the lead detective, Bobby Joe Olson. So from these conversations, James Craig offered Nathaniel Harris an opportunity to make some money.
You mentioned that he offered money to other people, or what was the deal there?
Bobby, some female named Bobby Olson, I think was her last name. I don't know. I think it was Bobby Olson.
That's who he wanted to kill?
Yeah.
Police say he allegedly offers Nathaniel Harris $20,000 to kill the lead detective on this case, Bobby Joe Olson, effectively putting a bounty on her head.
Then the cellmate says that James Craig gave him a letter as well. In that letter, it refers to Detective Bobby Joe Olson as the world's dirtiest detective, says that she's out to get him.
He called you the worst, dirtiest detective in the world.
Yes.
Who he said deserved to die.
Yes.
Was that scary?
Yes. We do this job knowing the possibility of being injured or, killed in the line of duty. However, I was nothing but pleasant to Jim Craig every time I talked to him. I had broken my ankle, and so I was in a cast at that time. I was a sitting duck.
Well, and your family could have become collateral damage as well. That must have been probably the most torturous part of it.
Absolutely. Being in law enforcement, right? I feel I can handle my own, right? But my family's a different story. They didn't sign up for this job. And that I felt guilty for, putting them in this situation.
5 additional charges are brought against James, including solicitation to commit murder in the first degree. He pleads not guilty to all charges.
I have never seen a defendant rack up 5 more charges in their time incarcerated.
It's been nearly 2.5 years since Angela's death, and it's time for trial. The Redferns, the detectives, and Karen Kane will all be taking the stand. And when you locked eyes on him, was anything rekindled? Did you see the man who you'd fallen in love with? So in a case where nothing is ordinary, brace yourself for even more new revelations on the stand.
That absolutely broke my heart. I'm sure everyone else's heart in that courtroom.
All right, court's going to call 23 𝐅𝐔𝐋𝐋 Court will note at this time that the parties are present. We are in the presence of the jury.
2 years after the death of Angela Craig, and her husband faces a judge and jury in Arapahoe County, Colorado.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have been selected as the jurors to try the case of the people of the state of Colorado versus Dr. James Craig.
James Craig on trial for first-degree murder in the poisoning of his wife Angela and other crimes. What do you think was in that smoothie?
It's probable that he's administering arsenic on March 6th in her protein shake.
We learned that when Angela went into the hospital on March 9th, she had a very elevated level of arsenic in her blood.
I mean, I'm going to take a leap here and say that this is probably the first time that you've ever seen a protein shaker as a murder weapon.
Yes. You see James Craig handling this shaker bottle on the evening of the 14th and then the morning of the 15th.
Remember the antibiotic James Craig prescribed to his wife? That bottle found at her bedside?
The important thing about the clindamycin is it's a capsule that he could take apart, dump out the clindamycin, and repack those with the cyanide.
He wrote the script, he picked it up, he modified it. And then, perhaps most sinister of all, he gets her brother, who's there to take care of her, to administer some of this clindamycin to her while he's at work the next morning.
On the morning of March 15th, James Craig had told the Preys to make sure they give Angela her dose of clindamycin, that antibiotic.
Incessantly texted Mark and his wife saying, remember, Angela gets her meds at 10. Remember, Angela, did you give her meds? Did you give her meds?
Mark Prey didn't think twice about that. And they gave her the dose, and only around 20 minutes later, she was struggling to hold herself up.
Then the evidence jurors may never be able to unsee. For many hours of footage, a single frozen moment.
It's one frame. You have to go frame by frame to see this. It's one frame. When he goes into a bathroom and he walks out of the bathroom. He is holding a syringe.
He puts it in his pocket, goes back into Angela's room.
This was a sample syringe, like the one that we see Jim Craig holding.
I believe he had that syringe, it was ready, he had made it, and he 100% screwed it onto one of her IV ports and gave her that final dose of cyanide.
The evidence is in her blood, drawn at University Hospital, once when she arrived, and again after she crashes and becomes unresponsive.
The cyanide went up significantly and was consistent with an administration of another dose or exposure to cyanide while she was in the emergency department.
The hospital staff, when they got that information, they did try to give Angela the antidote for the potassium cyanide. Unfortunately, it was not reversible.
First and foremost, he wanted out of his marriage. He was tired of it.
Prosecutors argue James Craig worried about the appearance and the cost of a divorce, and he saw a chance to collect millions of dollars in life insurance, and he'd also fallen in love with another woman. The prosecutor said that you were one of the motives for James Craig to murder his wife.
I certainly never aligned with that. I don't know if I even now agree with that. I don't feel like I'm the primary impetus of the idea.
When you were sitting in the witness box, did you see the man who you'd fallen in love with?
No.
Did you feel anger?
No. There's a lot of pity and disgust, just disbelief.
When you look at this case, it's actually pretty complicated.
The defense strategy in James Craig's case was to really point the finger back at the victim in this case, Angela Craig, and to say that she could have been suicidal.
23 years of marriage. 20-some years of him cheating on Angela Craig. He broke her heart. He broke her soul. He broke her.
According to James Craig and his attorneys, this was basically assisted suicide. Angela wanted to die, and they claim he was just trying to help.
There is no evidence whatsoever, no credible evidence to support that. The only person who says that is the murderer.
The bottom line is, when we're looking at, is this a suicide? There's no evidence of that I see anywhere.
There was love in the relationship.
Craig's attorneys take this argument that there was really no financial motive, that the insurance, that wasn't a recent purchase. And they say there wasn't going to be a divorce, that Craig was a serial cheater, and that Karen Kane, they say, she was just the latest infatuation.
You know what they have proven beyond a reasonable doubt from this table, from these people? You know what they proved? They proved beyond a reasonable doubt that this guy was a pretty crappy husband. He cheated on his wife constantly. Lots of cheating, not a motive.
He spent 10 days killing Angela Craig. He could have stopped On day 1, for day 2, for day 10. He kept going. Kept going right until the end. Angela Craig was innocent. James Craig is guilty.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to excuse our jurors to begin their deliberations. Please rise.
And still ahead, anger and eloquence in the courtroom. What James and Angela's children have to say to their own father.
Denver 7 is on verdict watch as the jury deliberates.
Please stand for the reading of the verdict. Count 1, murder in the first degree. We, the jury, unanimously and beyond a reasonable doubt, find the defendant, James Craig, guilty of murder in the first degree. Count 2, guilty. Count 3.
He is found guilty on 6 counts.
I thought there'd be some closure, and in the end, there was this overwhelming great sadness.
Yeah.
Jim was still not who we thought he would be, and Angie was still gone.
And in this moment of profound courage in court, 2 of Angela's children, her oldest son and daughter, deliver remarks.
It's hard to lose your mom, and 3 days after that, lose your dad. And have to spend the next 2.5 years trying to untangle whatever he tells you.
I was supposed to be able to trust my dad. He was supposed to be my hero. And instead, he'll forever be the villain in my book.
After the verdict, Karen Kane said she thought she'd feel some closure, but instead, she tells me, she just feels sadness. In court, she was able to meet and speak briefly with members of Angela's family.
That was definitely the thing I wasn't prepared for. I thought I was going to leave and be like done and feel just a weight had lifted, but that interaction, sorry. But yeah, I ended up leaving heavier because now I have these people and these faces that, I mean, their lives were affected in way more severe ways than mine was.
It breaks my heart that she likely did everything in her power to keep her family alive while she was being tragically manipulated and ultimately killed over it.
Can't help but notice you're both wearing purple. Purple suit, purple tie. Why?
Angela's favorite color was purple.
So this is an homage to her.
Absolutely. Tribute to Angela. Yep.
You didn't know her, you never met her. But it feels like you know her, doesn't it?
Yes.
I think both of us reading through her messages felt like she was just like us. She was doing regular Google searches of planning to sew and, you know, start new hobbies. Somebody that just had a lot of future left in them.
Angela's big brother, Mark Prey, who'd been his little sister's advocate throughout the whole court process, speaks to Denver's local ABC affiliate hours after the verdict, and you can tell he's still processing the past 2.5 years.
You never get used to having her gone. The family text messaging that we do instead of her voice isn't there anymore, and you don't get used to it. It's almost like she took a trip to Europe and we're too poor to go over there, so we'll see her eventually.
Mark Prey, he's a man of deep faith, just like his sister, and he believes he will be reunited with her once again.
Families aren't just for this life, but for the next, and so she's still part of our family, and she's still Angela. I know that she's still there, and we'll see her again.
James Craig is serving life without the possibility of parole. The judge said he, quote, unleashed a path of destruction as wide as a tornado.
David, as for Angela's family, they tell us that they're glad to have the court process behind them and that her younger children are now living with extended family members. That's our program for tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Deborah Roberts.
And I'm David Muir. From all of us here at 2020 and ABC News. Good night.